All right, guys. Okay. Live and direct talkback on the latest footage that has been released of this thing. I actually want to wait to get a couple of people back in here, or get a couple of people in at least. So let's just give this about 5 minutes. Let's not rush ourselves because there's actually a lot to discuss with this particular situation at hand, with the Snyder cut of the latest footage at this Justice Con thing. I don't even know what Justice Con is, to be honest, of Snyder cut. So I'm going to wait a little bit to get a couple of geezers in here. Just give me a second. Okay, so putting in some stuff in here. Yes, so before we get into that, so what I wanted to do here, I mean, look, I'm going to talk about a few things. Obviously, for those who do not know, Snyder, aka Zack Snyder, is coming out with his cut. Basically it's like a director's cut. So the sort of thing that James Cameron would have, especially James Cameron had a lot of director's cuts of his films. Ridley Scott's a lot of director's cuts. There's always a director's cut of a Ridley Scott movie, actually. That's like a foregone thing. So I wanted to put that on the table. What's actually happening here is he's coming out with the director's cut. In case for those who do not know, it's been rumored for years since a lot of the issues that existed in the, how do I put it, in the original release of the Justice League, because there's a lot of messed up things happened. He was doing the movie, then there were issues, then he had some personal issues in his family thing, but they used that, apparently that was used as an excuse, because it wasn't actually the real reason why he left the project, because he wanted to finish the project. And anyway, look, who knows what the truth is, but to cut a long story short, he left it and Joss Whedon came in because of all the success that he had had with Avengers and so on. I guess Warner Brothers felt like he could do the same thing for Warner Brothers or something, so they brought the guy in, and he basically apparently threw out 70% of what Snyder made, and we got the movie that we got, Steppenwolf. Which I'm not going to just say that Joss Whedon, it was only his idea to Steppenwolf then, because from what I'm hearing, Steppenwolf was actually also involved in Snyder's movie. The thing is, like, the whole situation is so confusing that I really do not know what it is that is getting released. So this transmission is basically for the footage. So I saw the footage. The footage isn't even actually that much. And it's not even easy to find, because I went in there and you've got to sort of go into other videos and debate. So you can't actually, it's actually hard to find there's some people who've uploaded just the footage itself, but like it's sort of within a talk I was doing this just something. So you see some footage in there. And I'm not sure if there's more of it, but like the main thing that guys are talking about is that, there's a scene with Superman and Alfred, and Superman comes in with his black suit, and people are excited. I mean, I actually do. That's the reason why I wanted to do this, because I'm actually confused at the states us as fans are actually in. Because I'm thinking, like, I actually thought I was, like, when they said there's new footage, I thought I was going to see something revelatory. Like I was going to see Superman fighting Darkseid or something. You know what I'm saying? Like just a clip of that, like something that would really make you go like, damn, okay, I guess this is going to be like a whole different film. So when I'm seeing that, I'm like, wait a minute. So this whole thing is about just that clip? Like, that's it? As far as I'm aware, what I've heard is that there's at least 50%. So what we saw of Justice League we saw, I think apparently 50% of it is going to be different. So I'm not sure how those percentages work out, because if Joss Whedon only used 30% of what Snyder had shot before, and what we're going to see is 50%. I mean, it doesn't make sense, because I know that Snyder has actually shot a whole load of new footage, so that there's a whole bunch of things that are new, including some old stuff that he did have. Okay, Ross Jackal, I don't know what you're talking about. So you said, Alfred said, he said you'd come. Now let's hope that you're not too late in the rest of the scene. Okay, and you said it was the other half of a scene that had been released with just Alfred. Yeah, it was, yes, exactly. I saw that. But I guess where I'm coming from with this is that that's it. Like, people are putting out, I'm putting out a video. People are putting out entire videos. And wait a minute, that's the scene? I'm so confused. So I'm actually hoping that somebody would tell me that there's actually more stuff that we've not seen. You know how in Comic-Con, you'd get Comic-Con trailers, and then people would tell you, describe what was in the trailer. Maybe you see like a camcorder, horrible bootleg shaky cam with people in the frame, video clips of it, but you have to wait to actually see the full thing. But if this is all that there is, I'm confused. So could somebody explain to me the excitement about the footage? Like, is there something I'm missing? Is it the excitement is because you're seeing Superman in a suit? Like, is that the excitement? And if that's the case, what are you talking about? Like, you're excited because you're seeing him in a black suit? What difference does that make? I mean, we already know that the whole doomsday thing, he died, we know that. So hold on a sec, let me we already know that he died, so we know that he was going to be coming back. And all right, let me give you a link, hold on. There's the link. I already knew that I was going to be coming back, so I guess I'm just confused by what, like, we knew he was coming, so there was going to be a thing. Obviously, the way that he was brought back in the Justice League that we did see was whatever, But in this one, it's like, okay, they're doing it with the classic comic book thing, and I understand the fan service of that. And Snyder has always been good with that. Like, he, with Watchmen, it was a panel for panel recreation. And I've talked about some elements of, and which is what I wanted to talk about here. I've talked about some elements of things that I like that he's done before with comics. But in general, I'm like, the same issues that anybody who had issues with his films would still exist. Hold on, let me see. He says it's not working. All right, hold on. Let me see why it's not working. Maybe you have to copy and paste this. I'm going to put it again. Maybe it's a copy and paste thing. So just copy and paste that link, because that's what I'm actually using, and that should be working. That should be working. I don't know why you would have any issues with that. Let me see what the instructions are. Instructions for guests. Chrome. Oh yeah, guys. You've got to be on Chrome. Yeah, you've got to be not letting you copy. You can't just copy that link. You can't just copy the link. You should be able to just cut and paste that link. And anyway, look, also you have to be on Chrome to do this. So you can't be on Safari. What did I do last time? Tell me, what did I do last time? I don't know what I did last time. What did I do? Yeah, so I'm just going to keep going. So I don't understand. So anyway, look. Yeah, you need to be on Chrome. Like, you can't do this. You have to be on a laptop with Chrome. So that's the first thing, guys. Like, if you want to join in this conversation, get on a Chrome browser. That's what you need to be on. Get the link I just posted and copy and paste that into your browser, Chrome browser. It's not going to work on Safari or anything else, okay? Chrome. Now, you remember we had Man of Steel, right? And I said what I said about Man of Steel. Like, I was actually in a very, very weird place with that movie, because I was like thinking to myself, and listen, you can go to the talk, because I don't know if the Talkback video on that is still up. I think it's still up. I think the Talkback reaction video to the first image of the Man of Steel image, where he was in and we've seen the movie now, so I know what it was from, but where the Fowler, I think it was, threw him into the sort of like safe thing or whatever, and the safe was all crushed and all that, and then he was stepping out the crushed safe, whatever. I remember we were praising that, me and Have Hope praising that image, because we were like, this really looks like comic book Superman. Like, just the image was the most visually, the most Superman looking from the comic book things that, because if you know, listen, the main Superman in the movies, the main Superman in general is Christopher Reeve, okay? But we all admit that Christopher Reeve, it's his own thing. Like, he made Superman into like an iconic thing that is its unique thing, right? But that wasn't the picture perfect representation that we got used to in the comics. The thing about it is that the whole Jim Lee art of Superman and Batman, the Jim Lee art of Superman is what I feel like Snyder drew on, because when I saw that first image, I'm like, man, this actually really looks like. I was actually kind of excited, because I was thinking that, he did 300, style over substance, but 300 was a big hit. I watched it and I had my issues with it. Talkback, we did the Talkback on that. But since then, I've not liked anything else like he's made. So it's like, and we talked at length. We did the Watchmen Talkback. We did everything. I've always said that, look, the visuals that this guy is able to put out there are some of the craziest, most amazing visuals that you'll ever see. Like, when I just really think of it, like, if you turned off the volume and you just look at some of the images in Watchmen, the movie, and look at the comic, it's literally a picture perfect representation of the comic book that you're seeing on screen. You know what I mean? And knowing that the guy came from commercials and everything, it sort of makes sense that, that's the sensibility. But when it comes to actually constructing the scenes and watching the movie, I've never, this thing has to be working, man. Let me see what happens. I'm going to try myself and see what it tells me. Yeah, it should be working. Look, I just tried it. And all you need to do is copy and paste. Is anybody else trying it? Like, if you take that link, I just tried it now in my Chrome, you copy and paste, what are you seeing? If you say it's not working, what are you seeing? Like, what comments are you seeing is on the screen? Anyway, like I'm saying, guys, so that's what I always said, right? I was just like, Snides, at the end of the day, the guy is a great visualist. Okay, here we go. I think I've got Rusty Shackelford in here. Give me a second, guys. I'm just going to do a little quick edit of the banner. Justice League Snyder's Cut. What they call it, Justice new footage, or it's Justice Con footage, right? Justice Con footage. All right, let me put you in here, adding you to the stream. All right, hold on a sec. Let me get us both. Let me get this just on the screen, double. All right, man. So welcome. Hey, Merc, can you hear me? I'm transmitting from, my good friend.
I'm in the United States.
Okay.
Central Time Zone.
Okay, like what state are you in?
Tennessee.
Okay, cool. All right, let's talk. Have you seen this footage? Have you seen it yourself? That's the first question. Did you actually see it yourself?
Yes. I watched the Snyder portion of the Justice Con stream earlier when he was talking to the 3 girls.
Okay.
He had some news about the next event, which I think is something called Fandom.
Okay.
And they're going to release the runtime of whatever the Snyder Cut is, and if it's going to be a movie or a miniseries. Because that's
okay. So let me just add Alien King in as well. All right, you're in Hollywood, aka Hollywood Rape, aka Hollywood God, aka so on and so forth. Welcome. So your connection, I think, is really, yeah, but your connection is, you sound like you're a million miles away. All right, so yeah, so Rusty. So basically,
all right, so let me do something. Hold on, let me do something.
Okay.
Let me do something.
So
let me do something here.
I'm going to mute you while you fix your cam. I'm going to mute you. All right, so Rusty, so you saw the footage. So the first question I want to ask you, right? Did the footage excite you?
To a point. It was nice to see more of Superman, the Zack Snyder version, and not the horrific CGI mustache one from the Joss Whedon movie. But in the end, it was just half of the scene I've already seen.
See, I mean, you see, this is it's a difficult one for me because I'm a Batman guy. Okay, I mean, to be honest, like if I'm being honest with you, I'm a Batman person.
Wait a minute, I see what's going on.
Superman, the thing about Superman is back.
Can you hear me now?
I can hear you, but your camera is your cam is like really, the frame rate is terrible. But anyway, let me just get back to what I'm saying. So Rusty,
right,
basically, I'm a Batman guy, and Superman was never really my thing, right? The thing about it that Christopher Reeve's Superman is my favorite movie of all time. That movie is the best superhero movie of all, to me personally. However, I do acknowledge, as I said, the image, like the physical representation of Superman when you think of the comics, I feel Snyder got that very accurately in Man of Steel, right? And the idea of bringing Black Superman suit into the movies is a big deal. Like that's actually a big deal. Like as for a fan, if you're a fan. So yeah. I felt like the fact that we didn't even get that, like how are you going to put Doomsday and then not have the black suit? It doesn't even make sense. Like I don't understand how your logic works. Like if you've read the comics, how do you have Superman die and then he comes back and you don't have the black suit thing? You know what I'm saying? Like, it's just a very strange, I mean, for anybody who claims to know what they're talking about, it's a very strange thing to do. Okay? Now, I still do not feel that footage was exciting. I feel like if you're going to hype up, like you're going to put new footage out, you've got to give me something, like I said, give me like a dark side clip of him fighting somebody. Like, give me something that, you see the clip and you're like, oh, okay. I have to watch this. Like in all honesty, when I say that, I don't feel like there is a must-see. Let me add this guy's screen again. Okay, you're now. That there is a must-see. How do you hear me feel? Now? Yes, like we can hear you. Yeah.
That's better? Okay.
Yeah.
Just so you know, you're right. You have to use Chrome. If you're on an iPhone, it's worse. If you're on an Android, it's better. Now, let me just say one thing about this whole Zack Snyder thing, the Snyder cut, what's coming, whatever. Let me just say one thing, okay? That's the only thing you need to know, okay? It's a joke. It's a joke. The best parts of that Justice League movie were the parts that, what's his name? Joss Whedon did. The best parts of that movie. The best parts of that movie were the parts that Joss Whedon did. The rest is garbage. So hold on, Merc. Hold on, Merc. I gotta say this, okay? So if the best parts you're gonna take out, because that's what he's gonna do. He's gonna take out all Joss Whedon parts, and he's gonna replicate his own version of it. Okay, why would you replicate more garbage? People are asking for more garbage, really?
No, but wait.
It's
So
a
this is what
joke.
I'm saying. Wait, okay, Rusty.
Yeah.
I'm sure that you're aware of what he's talking about. Let us just talk about the scenes, the material that he's referencing that would potentially be taken out by Snyder. Like, what are the Joss Whedon elements that, do we know what they are specifically that would potentially be taken out? Well,
I'm gonna tell you what they are. I'm gonna tell you what they are. I'm gonna tell you what they are. Everything that's fun. Everything that's fun in the movie. Everything that's fun in the movie.
Hollywood, hold on. Rusty, I want to let Rusty back in. So do you just give me some feedback on what you know about the material that is potentially going to be excised?
Basically everything, every frame of stuff that Joss Whedon filmed will not be in Zack Snyder's movie. So unlike the Richard Donner Superman 2 cut, Zack is not going to use the Joss Whedon footage to plug holes in his movie that he didn't shoot. So he's taking all of his deleted scenes, all of his work prints, and he's doing additional post-production, voiceover work, and I'm guessing reshoots if he's able to get people together.
So then tell me what these, I just want to know which material we're talking about here. Like, what is the material that Joss Whedon shot? Do we know what that material is?
Merc.
I don't know.
The material is everything that Joss Whedon did. Is all the stuff that when you watch Justice League, when you watch that first Justice League movie, everything that made them feel like the characters that we know, that we grew up with, okay, that was Joss Whedon.
Tell me what they are. Listen, I don't like just rumors. I want to know what those bits are. I watched that movie, and as far as I'm concerned, I didn't know what the hell I was watching. Okay, as far as I was concerned, like for the whole film.
Okay, I'll give you one example. I'll give you one example for me. I'll give you one example. When they're fighting Steppenwolf and all his peeps and all, they come in and they're invading and shit, and Superman shows up and starts beating the living shit out of them. Okay, that is Joss Whedon. I'm telling you, that's Superman. That's the Superman from '78. That's Superman from Part 2. And let me say one thing before I forget. This is a very important fact that a lot of people don't know. Superman Returns by what's his name? Oh my God, what's the guy's name?
Bryan Singer.
Bryan Singer, exactly. Thank you. It was supposed to replicate what the first Superman did. It's supposed to be a continuation of parts 1 and 2. A lot of people don't understand this part, but this is very important. When you watch Superman Returns, there's a sequence where it's about him and his child. Lois Lane had his child, right?
Yeah.
Now if you watch the Donner's cut of part 2, okay, he explains that in his version of part 2. He explains because he changes around when Superman sleeps with Lois. Watch Donner cut. In Donner cut, he loses his he keeps his power, then sleeps with Lois. It's something like that. I'm telling you, I'm not wrong.
In the Donner cuts, he gave up his powers, then he sleeps with Lois Lane.
Are you sure?
No, wait a minute. Okay, wait.
You have to remember this thing about Superman. It's tricky. Superman gets his power from the sun, right?
Yeah.
So when I think in the original cut of Superman 2, the powers of the sun weren't that. When he goes over there to the ice, what they call the solitude, all right, his powers are not completely there because there's limited sun over there. You see what I'm saying? So what they did in Donner's cut, so that the Bryan Singer movie, because they came around the same time, so that the Bryan Singer movie made sense. Okay, he sleeps with Lois before he gives his powers up. Then you get Superman Returns, where she's given birth to his son. You see, because if he gave his powers up,
but this is it. Okay, you know what?
way that child could be born with his powers.
Yeah, but listen. This is my issue with all of this nonsense. You see, my problem with all of this, right, is that Richard Donner made classics. Okay, so first of all, he made one, which is my favorite film. He made Superman 1. Then he tried to finish 2. They kicked him out. Richard Lester or whatever came in, did Superman 2. I don't even like Superman 2. I don't even like that movie. So when everybody keeps talking about, oh, Superman 2, Superman 2, Superman, I don't even like Superman 2. In fact, and people might come and say, oh, Merc, you're a psychopath. I like Superman 3 more than 2. Hands down. For one simple reason, Clark Kent v. Superman, which is probably one of the greatest Superman scenes that's ever happened. Superman v. Clark Kent is one of the craziest, most amazing things I've ever seen in a superhero movie. Forget the fact that it doesn't make any logical sense. It was just an incredible thing to see. And even when I watch it now, I'm like, this is still good. It's still good. So my point with this is that who cares about all that? I'm actually talking more about, look at where we are now, right? Look at where we are now. We have a situation. I'm going to put this on the table. People might disagree or agree with me. I'm going to put this to the floor. In my humble opinion, when you give one human being responsibility over all the heroes in a universe, like all the main heroes, you're in trouble. You're running into a scenario. The beauty of what DC used to be is the fact that you had individual filmmakers come out and do their own thing, right? So you had people like Tim Burton come and do his thing, Richard Donner come and do his thing, then Chris Nolan came and did his thing, Joel Schumacher, so on and so forth, right? You had people just come and do their thing. So you had very unique films. Marvel had followed that trend whereby obviously you have Kevin Feige who's controlling the whole, but you have individual filmmakers who come in and at least you'd get a little bit of different flavors with things, right? Little bit of different, but you had one guy who was overseeing it, but not from a director's standpoint. The problem that we have here is that anybody who had a problem with the direction that Man of Steel was, you're screwed, AKA me. So I'm just sitting here and I'm thinking that once I realize this, I'm like, whoa, if I don't like the direction that this is going in, I'm screwed for all the characters because the same person is going to be doing everything. That's ridiculous. And the fact that people are excited now and saying that, listen, part of me is, it's a double-edged sword, right? I do not agree with the fact that this guy wasn't allowed to finish his movie. How can you not let the guy finish his movie and like you put somebody else in it? That's just outrageous. So on one hand, I'm like, of course Snyder should get to finish the film and like put out the movie that he was making. If he doesn't want to use any of Whedon's footage, he shouldn't use any of Whedon's footage because it's his film. So on one side, I am completely with it. Like this guy needs to put out his own thing. And I want to see that, like I want to see his version, but that is not to say that I think that version is going to be the be all and end all of everything. Rusty, what do you think?
So Snyder, what they should have done back in 2017 or 16 when they were making the movie, they should have delayed it into I guess summer of 2018 after Avengers Infinity War was going to come out. They would have made the movie for less money. It would have been more cohesive. It wouldn't have been 30% Snyder.
Say that again. I missed that. You said back in 2017 they should have what?
The movie released in 2017.
Yes.
And it came out in theaters so the Warner executives could get their big bonus.
Mm-hmm.
And with the reshoots, the budget went over $300 million. And now they're going to have to spend another 50 or 80 million to finish this version in order to get HBO Max content.
Yes, no, I agree with you. And Wolfgang Peterson was supposed to be doing it anyway in the first place, which I didn't want, so I mean, I'm happy that didn't happen. The person that I actually was hoping was true. I was hoping, that Mel Gibson was going to do it.
That's right.
Man, that would have been a movie.
That's right.
That would have been a picture. Like that, when I heard those rumors, I was like, oh my God, wait a minute. It's about to be game on. And then he went and messed up and did all the things he did, and then he was out.
Yeah.
Like, you see, the thing about it is like, that is the sort of thing I was looking for, And unfortunately, that didn't happen. I think we've got Bat Val in here. Val, do you have a cam? Because I don't want to put people with no face. Like, do you have a cam? Okay, there he goes. There he goes. All right. What's up, man? Unmuting your mic. Can't unmute, I guess, because they chose to mute you. You're muted. Val, you're muted.
Hello.
Unmute yourself. Okay, cool. Could you guys, Hollywood and Val, could you get to a place where the light is shining in your face? Because all I'm seeing is silhouettes here. Like, turn your camera.
Can you see me now?
Yeah, that's better. That's better.
Okay,
Hollywood.
now, I'm sorry if I look like I was preoccupied, but I was looking for my Blu-ray copy of the 3-hour cut of Superman 78. It's somewhere in this mess. I can't find it right now.
I have every cut of that film. I have every cut.
That's the one I grew up with. The television cut, the 3-hour cut of Superman 78 is the one I grew up with. If you haven't seen it, watch it. 3-hour cut. 3-hour cut. Excellent masterpieces up there with Godfather. I'm talking about the 3-hour cut. Now,
Superman is the greatest. Like, listen, let me tell you something about Superman the movie. Up to the point when he flies at the screen, it is one of the greatest films I've ever seen. Up to the point, from after he flies at the screen, then it becomes like a normal film, and I'm like, okay, whatever. Up to the point he flies at the screen, it is one of the greatest films I've ever watched in my life. And to emphasize this, every superhero movie that's tried to do an origin story has ripped that thing off. Everybody rips that off. They all rip it off. Like even Nolan said that Batman Begins is Superman 1. I tried to explain to somebody how it was.
Here we go.
Oh, sorry. Before we go on,
3-hour cut of Superman 78. A lot of people don't know this even exists. Because they added scenes in the television cut. This is the television cut.
Hollywood, hold on. Val, so introduce yourself. When did you join Talkback? Why did you get into it? When was your mind freed? And what's your input into this? I want to hear, when were you freed? That's the first question.
It's hard to say when exactly. I remember the Senate, Blog Talk Radio. I started watching early on. I was on the forums early on, but I was like a late bloomer when it came to doing the podcasts or the shows or actually going on to a show. But I want to say 2007, 2000, somewhere around there.
Okay, so you're early, because I remember you. I remember Batman.
I was a lurker for a long time before I was ever vocal.
Yeah, no, I remember Batman for sure.
What was your name back then? Was it the same name? Because I don't remember your name.
Yeah, no, it was the same name, Batman. I remember.
Oh, okay.
So let me ask you this question. So, you've seen the footage, Justice Scott footage? Were you excited?
No. Because I've been thinking recently, and I think the issue that I have with these films is you look at the good ones, right? You look at Christopher Reeve Superman, Batman with Michael Keaton, even Batman Begins. If you wanna look at Batman Begins, you look at the good ones, and I think the good ones is a success story that, despite not being in the format or the form of a comic book, which is where these properties are really at their strength. Second to that, maybe animated series. Film is kind of like the third forum, where I think there's a lot against it from the beginning, especially if the filmmaker doesn't know what they're doing, for them to kind of surpass and kind of succeed. So when they do succeed, like with Christopher Reeves or Michael Keaton or this type of thing, I think it's a testament to the actors involved, the director involved, that they on some level are believable. You can buy in because this is something that's really suited for graphic novel format, animated series format, that visual form. And I think film is kind of like a dilution of that, or it's a little bit diluted. So when I see Zack Snyder, and I see, a lot of people say he's close with the visuals, that doesn't mean a whole lot to me, because there's no like, what's the appeal of a comic book, right? You walk into a comic book store back before we
This
had
guy's dropping knowledge, guys. I hope you're listening. I hope you're listening. This guy's dropping
you
knowledge.
see the visuals, right? And the visuals were extreme, right? Like, you know, nobody sees a Spider-Man on a, you know, the bright blue and red in real life. Nobody sees a Batman or a Superman. So when you see a comic book and you're 10 years old, 11 years old, the imagination gets you first, right? That gets you first. And then you get into the story and you see archetypes, you see myth, you see this type of long format story with a lot of different runs and writers and people coming in and out of it and different artists. And that's kind of how anime is. Anime has these long running series. Usually it's one creator, but they're long standing series. They're long standing series that a lot of writers can come into. And because it's such a long format, because you have 40 years of Superman comics, 50 years of Batman comics, because of that form, it gets very dense, right? And then there's a history, and then every little writer kind of does their own thing. And then by the end of that 50 years, you have a really dense mythology, a really, like, you know, if you talk about how much character study someone can do in a 2-hour film, doesn't even compare to a 50-year comic book run, right? So it's really, really well realized. So then when they get to the point where they're going to make a film, and you're coming from that place, right? Like, not mass audiences, but as a comic book reader, you're coming from this very dense form of, like, you've read so many issues of Superman, you've read so many issues of Batman, and now you're getting to the film, you're bringing that with you. So the film kind of looks like a simple thing, right? It's like, okay, we're going back to the beginning and the origin story, and, you know, I guess they should start there. But it's a very, like, it's like you're used to seeing like a Picasso, and now you're watching someone draw with crayons, right? So you're like, okay, you know, it hasn't been done in film. Maybe they'll get it right after 20 years. Maybe it'll take some time, you know, because the comics were around forever, and, you know, this is the first Superman film, and maybe it'll take another 40 years or 30 years or something. But they don't really develop it. They do the same thing, the same origin story, the same type of film. And most of these films are not that different from each other. So when I can't imagine being impressed. Like, I can imagine being impressed if you're like a, you know, a high school girl and you've never read a comic book and you see a film and it's your first exposure, or you never read the comics. So I can see that, like, yeah, okay, maybe you never saw that type of imagery or this type of story. But if you come from the comics, like, you're looking for them to do a good job, right? You're looking for them not to screw it up like so bad, but you're not really looking to be impressed, because, like, how many of them actually get close to the source? And
exactly.
All right, guys. Sorry, guys.
Exactly. That's what I was just about to say. The key is the source material. Okay.
Yeah.
And that's the problem. Where, okay, you might disagree with me, but at least the Marvel movies, at least the Disney Marvel movies, used as a base the source material. Now, take for example Tim Burton. I love Batman 89 and Batman Returns, okay? But in Tim Burton's case, Tim Burton was working on Batman since 1985. Since 1985. And his love came from the 60s television show. But the producers were like, well, that's not the image of Batman we want to show now. So you have to mix it all together. That's why when you watch Tim Burton's movies, okay? Tim Burton's is a mixed bag of the dark, of the funny, of the campy, of the serious. It's a mixed bag. And at least Tim Burton, let's say it's not perfect, but at least Tim Burton gave credit where credit is due. The Killing Joke and The Dark Knight Returns. You can watch old ass videos where Tim Burton says over and over again that is what inspired the look, at least the look, of his movies.
Now listen, I'm going to say something here, okay? And this again, look, I always like to be honest and true. There are two factors at play, okay? There is the film and there is the authenticity, okay? The film element, Nolan has nailed it more than most. Not all. Listen, I still put Unbreakable and Superman 1 above, and Blade 1 above Batman Begins and Dark Knight, right? Blade 1 is the most underrated. I don't know why nobody talks about that film. That film is incredible. But anyway.
Merc, I agree with you. I agree with you.
No, but wait. Let me get to my point. Let me
just say one thing. Let me just say one thing. Nolan stood on the shoulder of geniuses. He stood on the shoulders of Alan Moore, killing Joke.
That's why I'm saying.
Shoulders of Tim Burton.
That's why I'm saying wait for me to get to my point. So
and
listen.
Nolan says that the comic books are irrelevant. That's what he says. Tim Burton liked it. Nolan said it's irrelevant. That's the difference.
Listen to my point. There's the film and there's the material. You see, what Batman said, which is why I said that people need to listen very carefully to what this guy is talking about, because this guy was dropping some knowledge. Comics, if you try and translate a comic to a movie directly, it's going to be stupid. It's not going to be the sort of thing that you can watch as a film and really appreciate that, oh, this is a great work of cinema. That was the reason I couldn't watch Watchmen. Watchmen was literally a frame-for-frame representation of the comic. Now, some people would say that, oh, this is what we've always asked for. But I'm like, no, listen. If you know movies, you understand that when Superman 78 came out, that thing had very little to do with what Superman was pre-78. If you read the comics pre-78 and you watch that movie, what Mario Puzo and Donna did was reimagine so much about what Superman is or could be and made it a good film. You have to remember that this is a guy who's coming off the back of Godfather. He's coming off the back of Godfather, okay, and making a superhero film with Marlon Brando in the movie and Gene Hackman in the movie. That is the levels that these people were taking it to, which is why I said that Chris Nolan was trying to do the same thing. Now, the points I'm trying to make here, which is why I'm like trying to get my points out. So this is what I want everybody to listen to. We need to give respect where respect is due. If anybody saw, there is only one time, and I'm a Batman guy, there is only one time on screen that Batman has been represented authentically. That when I saw it, I said, good Lord in heaven. I've always thought that there was a way that Batman should have looked and behaved, and I've only seen it once. Hollywood, what I'm going to say, you're not going to agree with. What I'm going to say, you will not agree with. It has only happened one time. The clips of Batman in the rescue scene and in the warehouse, that's none other than Zack Snyder did. Now, we can talk about entire films. We can talk about entire films about Batman Begins, Dark Knight, whatever. But that warehouse scene and what I saw and how Batman was filmed, how he fought, the energy, the intensity, the look of this guy, I was like, you know, this is literally, I'm looking at, this is Batman.
Merc.
That is
Merc.
Hands down. No, but as a film is a different story. As a film, we're talking about a different thing.
Can I tell you where he got it from?
Who cares where he got it from, though? He did it.
Oh, no. This is very important. You say that was the best depiction of Batman, right?
Yes.
Okay. Guess what did it better? And it wasn't even a Batman movie. Nicolas Cage in the first Kick-Ass. That is Batman, and that's where Snyder took it from, because Snyder is a hack. Always been a hack, always will be a hack. The genius of Nicolas Cage giving us the Adam West voice and acting like the Batman from the 1939 comic, this one right here. See that? Okay? That is what they gave us in Kick-Ass. Now, Nolan's best Batman movie was this one. See that guy right there?
Yep.
Batman Begins is Nolan's best movie. And why is that? Why is that? Because before Nolan worked on the movie, before they hired him as director, Frank Miller and, oh my God, what's the name of the director? He's a great director. Oh my God.
Requiem for a Dream guy, Aronofsky.
Yes, Aronofsky was supposed to direct. Everything involved in that movie, as far as production was concerned, was already done when Nolan was hired. Aronofsky left. Frank Miller left with him, and Nolan again stood on the shoulders of giants to give us his version. Nolan disrespects the comic books. He loathes them. He says the comic books are irrelevant. And before I forget, this is very important. Nolan supposedly, I don't believe it, but Nolan supposedly was the one that chose Zack Snyder.
Okay, so let me hold on. Let me respond. So, Baval, so the point I'm making as an overall is this. I don't care where people got X, Y, or Z from. All I want is to watch a good movie. I'm the audience. So it's like, yeah, we can talk about where the Matrix really came from, whether it was a person that did it, but that's a different conversation. As far as justice, who should get credit for what? That's a different conversation. But the actual product is what I'm talking about. And I'm saying for a fact, every single scene with Batman that Snyder made is top quality. Every single scene, from the nightmare scene to the warehouse scene to the rescue of the sex slave scene, to all of those scenes, is top quality because of what you said, Baval.
But here's
Batman
the interesting thing, though.
Very stylized character. Sorry, go on.
Here's the interesting thing, though, because you bring that up, and you could tie all three of them, right? So they're not really full package directors. Not Tim Burton, Nolan, or Snyder. They're not a full package director. So what do I mean by that? Snyder came from advertising. So he thinks visually and he sells products, right? Advertisers do commercials. They sell you cars. They sell you beer. They sell you something visually. So you give him something like Batman. You give him an action scene with no dialogue. You give him, it's selling action, right? He can sell that because even Snyder simplistically understands the brand of Batman. He gets it in his punk rock type of way. He gets it. He's like, oh, Batman. Okay, I know what's cool about this. I know what's awesome about this. I can direct the hell out of this action scene. I could sell you Batman. So he excels at that. You look at Nolan. Nolan's not a full package director. He's like, if you look at a full package director, right? They understand characters. They understand plot. They understand visuals. They understand atmosphere. They understand pacing. Structure of a screenplay. Nolan is a plot director. He's a plot analyst or a plot dissector, not a writer. His brother is probably a better writer than him. But if you give him a plot, if you give him a writer, he'll give you something suspenseful with it. He knows how to kind of mind the plot, sort of say. But dialogue's really not his strong suit. Exposition's not his strong suit. Visuals and action are definitely not his strong suit. But you give him plot, and most suspense thrillers, that's what they are. They're just plot mechanics. He can do that. Then you look at Tim Burton. Tim Burton is a dreamer. He's imaginary. He did animation for Disney before he was a director. So he's probably the closest thing to a comic book artist, right? Tim Burton's the closest thing to an illustrator or like a comic book illustrator. So when you watch his films, they feel like a comic book because like it's visual, it's atmospheric. If you gave Tim Burton or you got him involved in a comic book, he could probably give you something interesting.
I don't want to interrupt. Keep your thread. I just want to inject somebody. I want to inject somebody into what you're saying.
I think I know who I'm going to inject one more piece that just came to me.
Okay, go on. I don't think you will. So let's see if you do.
So then you get to Superman 78 or Christopher Reeves. That's the closest thing to a full package. You had a Juilliard trained actor in Christopher Reeves for the character work, right? And what he brought to Superman. You had the writer from Mario Puzo and Richard Donner on the script and the script work that they brought to it. And then Richard Donner is more than these other three guys, he's a more fully realized director. Not the most realized, like, you know, there's been greater directors that are more like the full package, but he kind of hits all the marks, right? So he'll give you a balanced product. Like he'll direct it in a balanced way. And when you combine that with Christopher Reeves and you combine that with you know, the script that they had to work with, you get a film. You get a legitimate film. And you know, you combine, you know, Michael Keaton with Tim Burton and you get the same thing. So that's kind of how I look at it. And I'm still kind of waiting for that guy to come along that's like a top class director that adapts the material, because you're not trying to lift it. You're not lifting panels like Snyder. You're not focusing on just plot and making a crime thriller like Nolan, and you're not just making an atmospheric film like Burton, even though that's the closest to a comic book. It's a film, so you need somebody that's going to say, okay, I see the 50 years of the comics. I'm not going to give you the 50 years of the comics. I'm going to absorb it. And I'm going to innovate. I'm going to give you something better.
That's the guy that I wanted to talk to you about. See, the thing is, this is the guy that nobody talks about him because he's messed up a lot. So, you know, M. Night Shyamalan with Unbreakable is the most complete superhero movie that has ever been made in history. It's better than Superman 78. I just think that Superman 78 has magic in it. So that's the difference, and that's what takes Superman 78 above Unbreakable, is that there is a sprinkling of something that is beyond filmmaking in that movie that comes from Christopher Reeve and Marlon Brando's performance and John Williams's music. And again, like I say, the first third of the film, up to when he flies at the screen, is just some of the most amazing folklorish fairy tale that you've ever seen. But as a film, Unbreakable is an astonishing film. Like,
but he does have something against him though. So those other guys, you know, I kind of mentioned what they do. Shyamalan, what he does is he gets the feel of it, right? You look at Sixth Sense, you look at Unbreakable, he gets the emotion of the product that he's directing, right? So he gives you the feel of what these characters or what heroes should feel like. But he lacks the visual element. I wouldn't say he had the visual element of comics, but he had the feeling. So even he's kind of like a different aspect, but he's also a one. He hits or misses a lot. You know, when he's really hitting, he can give you a great film.
You know
but
what?
Then he's not. He could really fail big.
I'm going to show you why I love Talkback. I'm going to put something that somebody just said. I was about to say this. I was literally about to say this. One director who I'm surprised who was never offered Superman movie was Steven Spielberg back in his prime. Maybe not now, but I'm talking back in his Raiders E.T. days. Forget then, today, Spielberg is Superman. Like, Spielberg there are two films that Spielberg should have, no, three. There are three movies that seem like tailor-made for who he is as a person. Superman, Star Wars, and Transformers. Those three films, because people would say Transformers should be James Cameron. I'm like, no, Transformers, there is too much of a kiddie element to it. That if you give it to James Cameron, has too much of a hard edge.
But that kid element is what Spielberg has. Spielberg's Peter Pan syndrome in his whole life. He's literally an adult child.
No, but that's what you need for Transformers.
Yeah, that's what you need for any of this stuff. But that's kind of what he's kind of unique in that way.
Was like on the basis of Minority Report, Spielberg could have made Iron Man when that was coming out.
You know what? Listen, but we're talking about somebody who is literally tailor-made for the thing. Like, I'm saying that you would guarantee that the film that you're going to get. Because listen, if you want an Oscar-worthy Superman movie, give it to Mel Gibson. Like, if you want an Oscar-worthy Superman film, like, you literally give it to Mel Gibson, because he'll give you something that Superman is supposed to be Jesus. That is the Christ-like thing that Richard Donner took it in. And that was why I said what Mario Puzo and Richard Donner did was amazing, because they reimagined what Superman is. So they created that whole thing about the one child in the manger type thing and that little star and he giving up his only son and everything. That's very biblical, right? I feel like if you wanted to take things all the way, you need to give it to somebody who, like Batval is saying, you're a filmmaker, right? You're making a film. So you really take Superman as a piece of source material, and you say that, listen, what is Superman? And I'm going to tell a story about this. Now, listen, this is the crazy part. And I'm going to bring Star Wars into this. I'm going to bring a guy that I say I never even want to talk about. I only talk about him in disdain. We're going to talk about Last Jedi. There is only one thing about that guy and that film that I respect. The fact that the guy just did his own thing. That's the thing I respect. He literally just, like, he did his own thing to a degree that blew my mind. My mind exploded. I'm like, this guy literally did, he just did whatever the hell he wanted to do. That is astonishing. But that is the kind of like wanton confidence. He didn't have the tools to do it, to do a good Star Wars film. But you need that sort of confidence to go in and make these sorts of films. And I feel like, and I agree with what Baval is saying 100%, but the reason why I named Shyamalan is that there are very few directors who have the entire package, who are good with dialogue, good with drama, good with visuals, good with adaptation, good with, there's so few of them, you know. It's like, and even of the greatest directors, there's only, when you think about it, only Steven Spielberg. Like, I can't think of anybody who can do everything. Him and James Cameron, maybe. Who else can you say is like, and even James Cameron, I wouldn't say that James Cameron has the nuance of what Spielberg is able to do. Like, Spielberg is making Schindler's List and making Indiana Jones and making E.T. and making Hook and making Minority Report and making War of the Worlds. I mean, this guy's levels of completeness are unrivaled. They're unparalleled. He can do literally, his only limitation is his own personality. It's like what he is inside him. As far as a technician, Spielberg has no limits as a technician. So yes, I feel like, you know, when you're really thinking about it, he's the only filmmaker that I believe, if you gave him any material, if you got into his mind and said, listen, this is the kind of movie we want, and he agrees with you, he'll execute. He'll execute. But listen, I honestly feel like I saw that footage. You know, we've got like, maybe let's do that last 10, 15 here. I saw that footage. I felt, I don't understand what the excitement's about. I know that people are just desperate for stuff and they want to have fun or whatever it might be, but I don't understand what. I've got a Batval 2 here.
If it's better.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm gonna leave the other one.
It's easier for another month, it sounds like.
Yeah, so hold on, let me plug my computer in.
I think this mic works, but I'm not sure.
That's
yeah, man. So look, at the end of the day, I really feel like we're in the barren lands, you know, when it comes to comic book films. And I feel like, because I didn't want to go in this direction, but you know, when we talk about Marvel and everything and what has happened with Avengers and the success of Avengers Endgame and all those sort of movies, superhero movies aren't really films anymore. They're like, you know, like Martin Scorsese said, it's like, they're like amusement park rides. You get on them. Listen, I don't even remember. If somebody tells me that, tell me the synopsis, the story of Endgame. I have no real ability to tell you that story. Or Infinity War, I can tell you the macro story, or like, this is what they were doing, but I can't narrate the story of the movie because it's not a movie. It's just a sequence of set pieces. And that's the difference. Like, when I talk about Batman 89, I can tell you what's happened in that film. I can go step by step of what was going on in that movie, and I can do it with Blade 1, I can do it with Superman 1, Superman 2, Superman 3, I can do it with all the superhero movies that you remember. The only one that I think is like, of all the Marvel group, Winter Soldier, Blade 1, First Avenger as well. So listen, you know what? To be honest, those 3 Captain America movies are the best one. Like to me, I mean, as a whole. Though I didn't really like Civil War that much, but Winter Soldier I really liked. But in general, like I'm not able to really articulate after I watched those films what happened in them. They were just like a whole thing of like boom, 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 and I come out. Batman Begins is a film. The Dark Knight is a film. The Dark Knight Rises is not a good film. You know what I'm saying? Like these are movies that you can talk about it. I'm like, this is what happened. This is the characters. This is what they were doing. This is where they were going. That's a big difference, you know? And I think that is where we're going with Justice League. Like when you look at Justice League and I'm thinking, I'm like, even if you shoot 50% more and you switch a lot of things around, the problem with Justice League is before the movie was even made is the fact that there is no, the Batman we're seeing in Justice League doesn't have a trail of movies. He hasn't been established. The Superman we're seeing in Justice League had one film, his origin, like sort of semi-origin movie, and then he's in Justice League. You see what I'm saying? Like you haven't even established a platform for the characters that you're putting in this. So how do you ever expect to compete with what Marvel are doing when they are coming in where you have Iron Man is 3 movies deep, Captain America is 2 movies in, Thor is 3 movies. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like you're coming with guys who've got like a back catalog and fan. So, I mean, I think that is where the struggle comes because you've got characters in Justice League that don't even have a movie.
No Flash movie, no Aquaman. You did okay. Wonder Woman finally had.
Aquaman had his movie after Justice League.
Yeah,
but that's the thing. Like,
either
is it more interesting to see a Justice League film or a really really good Superman film?
Really really good Superman film.
Right. Like I don't know. Like that's how it is with the comics. Like I would never pick up Justice League issues. I would pick up solo Dark Knight issues or Superman issues, and I would do the crossover events every now and then. But the crossover events, even when I was reading them as a kid, weren't the best stories. They felt like a blockbuster. It felt like an event, but it wasn't the best stories. It wasn't the best runs.
Did you ever read the Teen Titans, the old comic from the 80s? Did you ever get that?
I have.
That's the best one. That's the best one. That's the one that I think was probably the most fulfilling in a very surprising way. Like I wasn't expecting it to be that fulfilling. Like when I read it, I was like, this is actually, considering it's some spin-off group, because it pulled in a lot of characters like Batman. And basically, I don't want to spoil it completely, but it was a lot to do with nightmares and hallucinations and stuff like that, and the end of the world and Armageddon and all that sort of thing. But I feel like those things only work when you have strong threads contributing to them. If you don't have strong threads, there is no entertainment in reading Justice League comics. If you haven't already been invested in the individual characters and are excited to see, because remember what the comics used to do? They would tease the team up. So you'd be reading your Batman, right? And then things would be happening in there that would be building up to the Justice League situation. Things would be happening in the Superman comic that would be building up to the Justice League situation. So you might start getting crossovers with particular comics that's building up to the Justice League situation. That's sort of the way you've got to do it, because otherwise you have a scenario here where you're building a movie where Aquaman, Flash, Cyborg had no movie when you put them in Justice League. Wonder Woman had one movie that had just come out. Like it literally had just come out. And people even said that the only reason why people went to watch Justice League when they did is because Wonder Woman was so well received. So at the end of the day, it's like, I feel like that is where the problem lies. So if you're now even bringing this out, I'm like, I'm disappointed that, what do they call it? Zack Snyder didn't do a Batman movie with Ben Affleck. I have to be honest, I was really looking forward to that. After I saw those scenes, I was like, oh my God, because Batman has hit the nail on the head. Batman is the one character that style over substance might actually work.
But that's the funny thing. When Ben Affleck pulled out of that project, right? He said something about, he couldn't crack the nut or the code about the. I'm like, what's there to crack? What's there to figure out? Like,
drop him in Arkham Asylum and let him beat up people for 2 hours.
Yeah. I'm like, it's not rocket science. It's
like Clint Eastwood. It's like Clint Eastwood in the Magnum PI movies or the Dirty Harry movies. Like,
you know what is funny? Man, I like your thought process. That's basically what it is. It's very simple. He's a detective, but he beats people up. Let's look at Clint Eastwood in Dirty Harry. He's Dirty Harry, Magnum Force. Just go watch Magnum Force.
Magnum Force. Who cares? He shoots a bunch of people.
Magnum Force is what Batman is. Like, basically. Thank you, Palvan. That's actually the best comparison I've ever heard. Go and watch specifically Magnum Force. And which one was that? That was the one with, what's the name of that guy? That ridiculous villain, that horrible villain with the blonde afro. What was his name? Scorpio. Was that the one with Scorpio?
Scorpio was,
I think so.
Dirty Harry 1.
Is that Scorpio? Oh man, which brings up with Scorpio, where they had the sniper rifle in the stadium. It ended in the stadium. The final showdown was in the stadium.
Which brings up an interesting question, because Clint Eastwood's not a bad director in and of himself.
No, he isn't, man. No,
how would what would he do with like a Batman? I know he's older, but he played characters that you could he might understand where it's coming from.
Val, remember what we were saying in Talkback back in like the 2010, 2000. We thought they were going to make Batman Returns, and we said it should be Clint Eastwood.
No, but I mean him as a director, because he's not a bad director.
No, he wouldn't be right, because he would get the grittiness of it, but the visuals. Listen, that's why I said Batman is a very specific kind of superhero. You need the hold on, sorry. You need the visuals for Batman, and that's the reason why I said that it's so crazy that Zack Snyder didn't get to do the one movie that I feel he was almost born to make. Like, when you look at all the things he's made, like 300 and all these movies, and the issues that I always had with his films is perfect for Batman, because Batman is not a movie that, you know, the way he even talks in the comics, right? It's very stilted. He talks like Dirty Harry. Like, it's a very stilted comic. Like, the comic, there isn't a ton of dialogue. There isn't a ton of like character development. Is that this is a psychotic maniac. We need to stop this psychopath. And these are the crazy things this psychopath does. Zack Snyder is tailor-made for that sort of film.
Hey, but you know what's funny though, because I
really was disappointed that I didn't get to see that movie.
He is in a way, like, he even got the suit right when they were saying the gray would never work, and he made it work.
It was amazing.
It was the best suit probably anybody's ever done.
I'm telling you, Batval, your name is Batval, so you know Batman. Yeah. The point blank, simple thing. Any Batman fan who is a true Batman fan, not a fair weather person, the people who were reading Batman, I was in Batman from Adam West before he changed to Dark Knight. Me and my brother used to watch it in the mornings. It used to come on in the morning after Wacker Day, and in London, right? It used to come on in the morning, and we used to laugh like, why is Batman running through the streets with a big bomb with like a fuse on it? And why does he drink milk? Like, we couldn't understand, like, what has milk got to do with Batman? But we still watched. And we have the Batman movie on tape with Adam West, the full movie. We got that. We had the toys, we had the comics, I had the bed sheets and everything. Batman is my guy. But he hadn't been done justice till Zack Snyder got him. Honestly.
And you know what the funny thing is?
I want to say one thing. I want to say one more thing.
Yeah.
And this is how I said out. Snyder is a very, very, very dangerous man. Did you see what he did in the saving of the sex slave scene? There's a very
on the ceiling like he's a creature.
Thank you. That is incredible. That thing, I was like, this guy, you won me over. You won me over. You won me over with that. The way he made him crawl out of that little hole, like it looked like an animal.
That was like an Exorcist movie with him on the ceiling.
Yo, listen, honestly, I do not know why there isn't a petition. It's too late now. I'm like, that's why I said that fans are crazy. What's wrong with you people? It's in your face, exactly what you need. You keep begging and begging. Zack Snyder should have been petitioned. You should have all your energy that you put into this Justice League thing and everything. From the beginning, you should have been like, yo, Warner Brothers, you need to keep that unit together. Affleck and Snyder. The thing about Affleck, right? I was against it, okay? I was against him being Batman. Then I saw the scenes and I was like, oh my God. The thing about Affleck is that he isn't the perfect Batman, but I loved his dedication to making a good Batman movie. And we all know he has history in comics. We know that. So those two combinations, I was like, you know what? If you're going to have somebody in this thing, a guy who we already knew, he's not a fair weather comic guy. You see, there's a lot of actors who come to these things and they were never really into comics, you know? They just now, it's the cool thing to do. Affleck isn't one of those people. We know about Jay and Silent. We know about Bob Morantz. We know about all his connection with Kevin Smith and everything. We know that he likes Star Wars. We know that he likes Back to the Future. We know that he likes Batman. We know this from back then when he wasn't even had anything to do with comic book movies. I feel like that combination was going to be killer. Like I said, that scene, man, that scene when he crawled through that thing. As you said, I'm like, this is the movie. Batman, it's like a horror movie. Like I was just like, how will you not be scared of this guy if you're a criminal? If I knew that something like that was out there, and I wasn't sure, is this a man in a suit, or is this a creature, or is this some kind of demon? That's what he was creating. And I'm like, you know what Zack Snyder was going to do? He was going to create that dichotomy of, like, you know, making the, okay, this is why I say Snyder is a dangerous man.
See, but it's not.
Wait. I want to ask you
Snyder's fault. It's not Snyder's fault. I'll get back to it, but it's not his fault.
Okay, I want to say, did you see that scene in was it in Justice League or was it in Batman v Superman when Ben Affleck was tuning his Bat voice thing?
Yeah, that's the Batman for Superman, the voice modulator.
Listen, I was like, Snyder's a dangerous man. That shows where his head is at. Because you see, Snyder's not like a filmmaker guy. He's a fanboy, like we are fanboys, right? He knows particular things. You see, that concept of Batman sitting trying to figure out the pitch of his voice to scare people. What's the right tone of the growl? That's something that only somebody like us would do.
Also, he watched the Christian Bale Batman, and it's like, that voice sounds ridiculous.
That's what I'm saying. Like, that is just what an auteur would be doing. Like, I'm an actor and I've got to have a different voice. What Snyder is doing, that's a fanboy thing. It's like when you're sitting there, you're like, we've got to have a scene where Batman is getting this device and is tuning his voice and trying to get the tone of. I'm like, yo, this is crazy.
Here's the thing about Snyder, right?
I feel so bad I didn't see that movie. Honestly, like to this day.
It actually was off the tracks way before then, and it's not Snyder's fault. So when you look at the adaptations from comics to film, right, and you look at the two that started everything, which was Batman and Superman, I would argue that the industry, film-wise, has leaned towards Batman more than probably anybody else. They've made those movies over and over again. But you want to start with Superman and you want to get that right, because one is micro and one is macro. So Batman's micro. You delve into the psychology, real world surface, closest on the visual sense to films dealing with real world aesthetic, but you can dive deep in the micro psychology of it and the humanity and that type of thing. And Superman, you can't dive deep because he's a Boy Scout. He's a cutout. He's an archetype. It's a myth. It's Hercules. So you can't dive deep. That's all macro. That's all Metropolis, the Shining City, the big existential threats, Brainiac, Doomsday, and mighty deeds, just like Hercules had his deeds, or Zeus, or whoever. The problem wasn't Snyder. The problem was Nolan, because what happened is Nolan got Batman, which didn't show his weakness as much as if Nolan got somebody else. If Nolan got more of the visual characters or the super extraordinary characters, his weakness adapting that material would have been clearer than him adapting Batman, because it's more real world basis. But because he got Batman and he went from Batman, and then he executive produced Man of Steel and he brought Snyder in, he misdirected Snyder because he incorrectly said, let's go micro focus like I did with Batman with Superman, and let's make him a real person and relatable. And then Snyder started going off of that, and I could be an auteur like Chris Nolan. I could be a filmmaker. That's the wrong conversation. If you're executive producing Snyder, you can give him Superman, and you can say, hey, Snides, I want you to sell us a Boy Scout. This is a Boy Scout. Sell it to us like you would sell a car. Sell it to us like you would sell anything else. It's a Boy Scout. You don't have to go deep into the psychology and make it relatable, and you don't have to be an auteur and a filmmaker, and you don't got to be like this or that. And don't fill his head with all that stuff. You know, like Chris Nolan came in, filled Zack Snyder's head with all that stuff. Before Man of Steel, Zack Snyder was just doing zombie movies, right? He wasn't talking about himself like he was an auteur.
That's the problem with the problem started well before then. It started well before then. The moment that he got Watchmen, it started the problem. Because Watchmen is the most sophisticated comic book that's been written. It's such a sophisticated comic book that I don't know how many directors you could even, I didn't even think it was filmable. I actually thought that the only way you could do Watchmen was probably as a TV show. And even then it would be very difficult to fully realize all the levels in the comic. The fact that you took that material and you gave it to a guy that is the most surface filmmaker was very strange to me. I'm like, Zack Snyder should have never got that. But once you do that and people didn't slam it as much as I thought should have happened, what ended up happening is that you embolden the decisions to start pushing somebody in a direction you shouldn't go in. That man is very talented. That is a very, very talented visualist. Very talented.
He's just got to be utilized.
You've got to utilize him correctly, because that guy has done some things. The Krypton in Man of Steel is better than any Krypton I've seen. Like, it's just
the fight scene in the third act of Man of Steel is too long and tone deaf, but the visuals of it work.
The visuals,
like the punches, the fighting, the air bursts and that kind of stuff. That's like the little nuance you would see that someone that's not a visual thinker wouldn't have.
You wouldn't have it. Like, the guy is very good with that sort of thing. And what I just felt is that there are characters. You see, you need a person who is in charge, who understands comics, to know what to give him and how to team him up. Do you know what Zack Snyder needs? It's very simple.
A producer.
A good producer who doesn't keep making 3-hour movies every time.
He's the sort of guy that he should be working in duos.
Oh, you know what? Zack Snyder should just, how certain films have action directors? They come in and they shoot just the action. That's what he should be. He should never be a full-time director. Forget even that. He should be a second director.
No, he's somebody that I would love to see this guy team up with a director. Like, put him with like some auteurish person. And it's directed by X and him, for example. That would, for example, if you said, this would never happen, so there's not even a good combination, but it was like Shyamalan and Zack Snyder making a movie together.
Well, a lot of people bring up, what's his name, as a full-blown director that should have done Batman. The guy who did Black Swan and Darren Aronofsky, but he would take it to a whole other place that it wouldn't be for kids. It would make a Batman Returns look like a Disney film.
Listen,
you give everybody nightmares.
It'd be the scariest thing that you've ever seen in your life. It would be the scariest movie that you've ever seen in your life. Because, listen, let me tell you something, right? The thing about Batman, and the reason why I said that Snyder is the best guy for it, is that the truth about Batman, and if you wanted to make an Oscar-worthy Batman movie, you need to give it to Aronofsky, somebody like that. Because if you really look at what Batman is, he is a psychopath. He just happens to be on the right side of justice. He's crazy, and he was never treated properly. Like he didn't get diagnosed early enough. He was a billionaire, so he was able to use his billions to medicate himself by creating this fantasy of becoming this caped crusader and doing all these things. But he is clinically insane. So the only difference between him and the Joker or Penguin and any of these other guys is the fact that he just happens to be on the right side of justice with what he's doing. That's it. He's just as crazy as they are.
And the element that he's probably addicted to pain and all kinds of psychological issues.
All kinds of psychological traumas and crazy things. And it is simply because he experienced a traumatic event as a child and never got diagnosed and never got treated. So he
had billions of dollars to separate himself.
And that is the movie that has never been made and might never be made. Because that kind of film is a horror film. It's a horror film. It's like because you're dealing with that, and it's a hero who himself is psychotic.
It's crazier than Hannibal Lecter when you think about it, because Hannibal Lecter is a cannibal, but this is like a billionaire human weapon who thinks he's a hero, but really he is a hero, but because of a fine line.
Yes, because
he is a hero, but it's because the samurai influenced him and the martial arts influenced him.
He's an incidental hero.
Yeah,
he's incidental. It's just by chance that he just happens to, because Batman's focus isn't being good like Superman is. It's justice, because the people that killed his parents didn't get justice. That's all it's about for him. It's revenge. It's vengeance. Like he's just like, I am going to mete out vengeance on criminals because that criminal didn't get what he deserved. So it's not even about justice to him in his mind. It's this twisted. It's just like it happens that his
you could argue it's less justice and it's more control. Like it's a control addict, but
true. But we see here this is listen. I don't know where you guys stand. Like Rusty, are you Marvel or DC?
Batman.
Marvel or DC? Marvel or DC?
Yeah, DC.
Okay. Marvel or DC?
I'm a DC guy just because I think I've drawn to the mythology more than the science.
Marvel
but DC.
Okay, me too. I'm DC. Good. We have a good panel here. The thing about DC characters, and I remember this when I was young, right? So Have Hope, well, actually not Have Hope, Phantom of Hope, right? Phantom of Hope was more of a Marvel. I don't want to speak for him. Maybe he was a DC guy, but I think he was more of a Marvel person because he was definitely Wolverine. Have Hope is a Marvel, like hands down. Like other than Batman, that's his guy. Batman is his guy. But other than that, he is X-Men and Spider-Man. Have Hope is like Spider-Man all the way, X-Men and everything like that, right? I've always been DC. And the comics I liked, did you ever read 2000 AD? You know, 2000 AD, Judge Dredd, Strontium Dog.
The Judge Dredd comics?
Yeah, but Judge Dredd was in this anthology called 2000 AD. So Judge Dredd was one of the comics in that anthology that used to come out with Strontium Dogs, I think, and it was what was it, Rogue Troopers? Rogue Troopers was one.
It sounds familiar, but it was so long ago that
it's a long time ago.
It was a long time ago.
Very cult. It was a cult thing. Anyway, that is where Judge Dredd comes from, right? So Judge Dredd was one of that anthology. Those were the sort of, and Green Lantern, one of my favorites, Green Lantern. Because the thing about these things is that when I was young, I even then I felt there is some kind of like sophistication to these comics that don't exist in Marvel. Like Marvel is just in your face, you know. DC had this thing, because do you remember Booster Gold? Every character that they made, there was something uniquely interesting and adult about them. Like it was just elevated just above a kid thing. So you would read them, and when you now come to making movies out of these characters, they are more ripe, in my opinion. Because listen, I'm one of those guys that believes Superman has no business in the same universe as any of these characters. None. I believe that Superman should just exist in his own universe, You should make films where there's no other heroes in those films except him, because Superman is too strong.
Well, Merc, imagine if they did like what you're saying now, that the heroes should exist in their own thing. That's kind of like what it was when they first got their books, right? Before crossovers existed,
Yes.
Before any of that, you had to run, hey, write 500 Batman stories. Do Batman this year. Hey, you do Superman this year. Really, that's what all of them should be.
But you know what?
The only reason they do crossovers is because Kevin Feige came in and decided to make that a money-making thing.
But Marvel works that way. It always did in the comics. The crossover, Marvel inherently had so many teams. Fantastic Four was
yeah. You're right. Because Spider-Man would team up a lot with not Deadpool. Yeah. Some character, I forget, but Spider-Man had a lot of team ups. Like a lot of team ups.
Most of the Marvel comics were inherently infused with teamwork. They were infused with that. The Incredible Hulk always had like crossing over into other things and fighting other people. Like it was Doc Samson for some reason. And for some reason, Doc Samson always fights in like regular clothes. The guy's always dressed very clean and nice with their t-shirts and belts, and his shirt is always tucked in. It was a very strange character. But Doc Samson would like, to me, Doc Samson was a character that was only existed to support other characters. Because I don't think I've ever read a Doc Samson actual comic. I don't think I've actually read an individual Doc Samson comic. I know they exist. I only ever saw him when he was in other people's things. But the thing is, DC is what you're talking about. DC always, in the beginning, they were their own things. They were just their own thing. Green Lantern didn't cross over to anybody. Like it was in another galaxy. Like they were doing their own thing.
You want to know what's funny? I think at least modern films, let's say after Batman '89 and Christopher Reeve's Superman, like the modern run of films, I think the closest thing to somebody taking a property and making a film out of it was Joker. It's not the Joker of the comics, but the feel of it and the impact of what the film was, I think is the closest thing in this last 10 years.
No, I forgot about Joker. No, it is. It's not even that. It's not that is the closest thing. It is. It actually is. Like that is what you should be doing. Like Joker is that. Like a guy came, he had his own vision of what this thing is. He created a film. It's a movie. I know that they will now try and cross it over to other things, but the Joker, you see, the thing about the Joker, which is interesting, and why I said Batman is an interesting character, is that the Joker actually that becomes even better when you introduce Batman. When you introduce Joker to Batman, Batman becomes better because they are psychopaths. Like you only really see the true levels of these characters when you start mixing them in together and you start saying that, oh my God, Batman, he's just the Joker, but on the right side, like it's the same person.
That's when you see the line between them.
That's when you see the line. Yeah. That's when you see the line. And that goes for all of them, from Penguin to, and you know what, that's why I didn't like Killer Croc. I don't like Killer Croc for that reason. I don't like Bane. When they started bringing Bane and Killer Croc in, I'm like, what is this? Because it's like, you're now bringing in like science and like mysticism and all that sort of stuff. I'm not a fan of that in Batman comics, personally. I'm much more interested in the psychological side of things, because let's be honest, you see the Riddler? What Nolan did with the Joker is actually the Riddler. That's not the Joker.
Actually, Nolan would have been better off if he just did the Riddler.
No, that's what I'm trying to say.
Like if he did the Riddler and made a suspense thriller film with the Riddler, it would be closer to Memento. I mean, why was he even doing Joker to begin with?
No, that is Nolan's textbook film. The Riddler, what the kind of things that Joker was doing in The Dark Knight isn't what the Joker does. That's what the Riddler does. The Joker is a complete maniac in the comics. And I'm talking about a complete maniac.
Do you think
because
it's an interesting question, right? We talk about Nolan, that he didn't make a good Batman film, he made a good film that had Batman in it.
Made a great film.
So this is the question, and it's an interesting question. You could argue that Nolan was held to kind of the material do a certain thing, especially with Batman Begins. As you went to the third film, he got a little bit more freedom. But seeing what Todd Phillips did with Joker, where you just said, hey, take the property and just make a film. If Nolan wasn't tied to anything, and it wasn't like make a film and include Batman in it, but it was just, hey, you want to call this film Batman and just make a film, go ahead. Would he have done a better job than what he did, kind of being in between both worlds?
I think this is the irony of that. You've seen Batman Begins, right? Batman Begins, it is a far better Batman movie than Dark Knight.
But he didn't write that though. He was working on somebody else's script.
I'm saying that when Batman Begins, he was under way more constraints. It was his first big movie. He had to toe the line more and be more in line with certain things. Dark Knight is him, and Dark Knight
Rises is even more.
That's really him. That's like when he could do whatever the hell he wanted to do.
He brought the bomb back from the.
He brought.
How did we end up there, trailing from the back?
I wish Have Hope.
Bane got shot by a motorcycle gun.
I wish Have Hope was on this. Me and Have Hope, after we watched Batman, Dark Knight Rises, we were like, this guy brought the big bomb with the fuse from Adam West. He brought it back. The bat plane was flying away with a big bomb attached to it.
How do you, as a proper filmmaker, how do you start your trilogy with Batman Begins and end it with the way he ended in Rises with the bomb? I don't
know. Look, that was, and you know what? To be quite honest with you, that film. Do you want to hear something crazy? Guess how many times I've watched Batman Dark Knight Rises?
Twice.
One time. I watched it in the cinema. I've not watched it again.
I left the cinema. I was angry. I haven't watched it since.
How that movie really is. It's Rocky 3 meets The World Is Not Enough. So Bane is Renard, who kind of can't feel pain. And then Talia is Elektra. I can't remember the name of the girl in the movie, but she's evil, and there's a twist, and she's evil, and Renard is the henchman.
Listen, that film was. You see, that's the thing, right? And this is how I know. I'm going to tell you another mind-blowing fact, and I'm going to put some information out there, which is hilarious. And I should put this in the Matrix talk because I have to get Have Hope for the Matrix because that's his favorite film. But guess how many times Have Hope and Thoughts, I think his name is Thoughts, Have Hope's compadre Thoughts. Guess how many times they watched The Matrix 1 in the cinema?
100 times.
No, a real, come on, be realistic, a real number of how many times they watched it?
I say 20.
13 times. Oh. 13 times. 13 times in the cinema. That's not counting how many times they've watched it on DVD or whatever. 13. I thought I was bad. I watched Matrix 1 6 times in the cinema, right? And I thought that's good going.
You want to see? Look about how many women saw Titanic over and over in the cinema, and then the re-release when it came out again.
That is why there is no contest for women when it comes to movies. That is why they've now tried to make every movie female or something, because they're like, women are the best cinema. If you can make something that women like, oh my God, they'll just keep watching it till it's out of the cinema. There is no ending to that. When Titanic came out, I remember I was like, how was I? I was like 16 or something. There were girls who were going to watch it every Saturday. It was like a regular, it was just a thing you did. Every Saturday, they just go and watch Titanic.
That movie was out around Christmas, and it was still playing in theaters the next summer.
It is absolutely astonishing. Men, we're not able to do that. The only things that can get us in the cinema a lot is things like Matrix or Rambo 2, Predator, Terminator 2. And even then, as a guy, you're going to go and watch that. Actually, the only film that could make guys do what girls did for Titanic. There's only one movie, Star Wars. But they've not made a good Star Wars, like they haven't made a Star Wars movie good enough yet. If the likes of Empire Strikes Back came out now, I'd go and watch that every week. Like, can you imagine if you had a situation where, like, no, seriously, let's just say this, right? If in the new trilogy, there was one of the things was Jedi Academy, you know, Luke Skywalker's Jedi Academy. Yeah. And you did it properly, right? You did it with like a proper version of that. I'd be there every weekend. Like I just keep going and going and going because it wouldn't be about watching the film anymore. It's almost like, for me, Star Wars is not like it's like I don't want to call it a religion because that's too extreme. But Star Wars for me is not a movie. It's like, okay, it's like a religion. Like, Star Wars for me is like, that's the reason why I tell people, right? When they killed Luke Skywalker, and when Luke Skywalker was disrespected in Jedi, I was broken. Like it's not, and that's like 100% true. My whole personality actually got affected by that. It took me months and months to get over it. And people would be like, oh, you're sad. You know, how old are you? Why are you behaving like that? It's just a movie. And those are the kinds of people that need to get the hell out of the fan base. They need to get the hell out of the fan base.
I didn't know what the power was that he was using to even do that. I was like, oh, so like this is like Escape from LA with the hologram. I didn't know you could do that in Star Wars.
Whatever the case, even if you did that and you put that in there, just the fact that Luke Skywalker was so disrespected and then you killed him. He never had a fight. He was depressive. He didn't care about anything anymore. I'm just like, it was just a very, very difficult thing for me to accept, right?
He was out of character. He wasn't Luke Skywalker.
He's not Luke Skywalker. It's just not Luke Skywalker. So I'm looking at it and I'm thinking to myself that, wow, as fans, right? And I think that is why, let's even look at Talkback. And let's do like final 10 minutes now, because I know we've gone like 40 minutes over the mark.
Remember Justice League?
Yeah, Justice League.
Will anything good come out of Snyder redirecting and getting another shot, or is it all bad? Is it all bad, or does it give him something?
I think that what should never happen is that everybody needs to move forward. Even him. Like I'm like, look, man, just go and do all that. Like, don't go back. And I don't want anybody, because people are like petitioning and saying that, oh, if this Snyder Cut is great, then he should get to come back and do all the DC things. I'm like, guys, like everybody's got to evolve and move forward. He's done so many of those films already. For one man to do Justice League, Man of Steel, Batman v Superman, and Watchmen, that is, for the same person to be doing Batman and Superman in and of itself is one of the craziest things I've ever heard, because directors wait their entire lives to get the opportunity to do one of those. And you gave 3 of those massive, 4 of them, you gave Justice League, Batman v Superman, Batman, and Watchmen to the same person.
And he wasn't successful with any one of them.
That's what it's just a very strange, it's a very strange thing, you know, and I don't understand it fully, because I look at that and I look at what my favorite TV show at the moment, Mandalorian, just because it's not the greatest show of all time, but just because it gave me some semblance of, so I'm watching Mandalorian and I'm like, wow, man, do you know how crazy it is that right now, if you go on YouTube or online, there is constant debate and talk about the Mandalorian right now. People are making mock-up themes, making mock-up Baby Yodas, making Beskar armor, that is what Star Wars is. Have you noticed that nobody's talking about Rise of Skywalker? Nobody's talking about Force Awakens. Nobody's talking about Last Jedi. Nobody's talking about Rey, Finn, Poe, all of them. Nobody.
Look at the games. What video games are you going to make based on that world? None. We don't care.
Nobody cares.
You know the funny thing about
Jedi Outcast games, Episode 1. They're all the old LucasArts games.
Exactly. And let me tell you this for sure. Mandalorian is going to spawn a lot of stuff.
It's a funny thing about Star Wars. My first exposure to Star Wars wasn't even the films. I was a little kid, and my babysitter had like a video game, and Vader and Luke were characters in that game. And even like seeing like the two characters on a video screen, like one on the left with a blue lightsaber and Vader on the right with a red lightsaber, and they have this like psychic powers. There was an attraction to it, like something's here. And that was before even watching the films and knowing what any of it was. But you could get a sense of like the mythology of it. Like, why is he holding a sword that's like a laser? And why is he floating around and speaking in this voice? Like, there's something there. And that shows like the visual strength of it, right? Not even like the film itself, but just like the imagery of it.
100%, man. 100%. Anyway, okay, look, let's just do last words now. What do you think that, first of all, Rusty, what do you believe that the Snyder Cut is, first of all, two things. Is it going to be better than the Justice League that got released? And do you believe that it's going to be a good film?
I think it'll be a better story of the Justice League than we got. I don't know if it's going to be a movie. I think they're probably going to chop it up into episodes so they can release it, a few weeks at a time and keep people subscribed. It'll definitely be better than the theatrical cut because I thought that movie was garbage. That movie was worse than the animated DC stuff I've seen, like Flashpoint Paradox and any of the old Batman cartoons.
But do you believe that forget even comparatively, do you believe in and of itself as a series, as a film, that is going to be good?
It'll be okay. I think it'll be on the level of that Batman versus Superman Ultimate cut, where it's still too long, but at least one guy got to tell his complete story. Over long as it might be. I don't know why he made a 3.5-hour version of this movie, other than Warner's knew they were going to sell an extended cut one day. But at least he's getting to finish it now.
All right, Val. First of all, is it going to be better than what we got, and is it in and of itself going to be a good movie?
I don't think it's going to be a good movie by any standard. Is it going to be better than what we got? I never liked Joss Whedon to begin with. I never liked the Justice League film. I didn't really even like Avengers 1.
We are in the same exact camp. We're in the same camp.
He doesn't have my sensibility. And I never saw the appeal of a Joss Whedon. So I think, having said that, it won't be a good film by any measure, but I think I'm going to like moments of it better than what Joss Whedon did. I think they're both equally forgettable. And I think it's just the wrong time. I mean, even now with the limits of shooting and how schedules are getting pushed back, like you have to question, like, by the time this thing actually comes out, what's it going to look like? Is it going to be in a studio? Like what are the extra shoots or, like money that they're putting toward it actually going to go to? And I saw some images of it and some clips that he was releasing, and it looked like a really bad video game CGI sequence. So I'm going to say,
what was this?
He released some footage of Darkseid, and it just looked really bad.
That. Yeah,
it just looked bad. It looked really bad.
You know what? I saw that and I was like, man, this just looks like
a cutscene.
Yeah, like a video.
PS4. Like, listen, man. Honestly, PS4 has better graphics.
And actually, and here's the other thing too. I do want to bring this up because now I'm changing my opinion a little bit. That footage combined, because he was presenting it like it was some awesome thing, like, hey, Darkseid, look at the reveal, and I was like, this is crap. But then today, I saw an interview of Zack Snyder at a Justice Con panel, and it was all girls, and he's having this interview about the new Justice League that he's doing, and he's talking to girls. And
is it a girls thing or something? I don't understand. How come it was all girls? Like, I didn't understand that.
I didn't get that, but then I started thinking, if these are the type of people he's talking to that he thinks are fans of this material, oh, it's going to be crap. It's going to be like so disconnected. It made no sense to me.
That Val, you see, this is the thing, right? And I'm going to say this. Talkback came about because of Bayformers 1. That's how we started, right? 2007. I don't know if you were there. I mean, that was, and it began as a mistake. It was actually a mistake. It was like me and Have Hope came back from the cinema. We were in shock. We were literally in shock. So we're just sitting there in shock. I was like, we didn't know what to do with ourselves. And then I saw some video of some guy who was also in shock in Australia, who like just got his camera and just started talking. And I was like, my God. So I'm not alone. I say, Have Hope, man, we need to put this on tape. So we just went and we just put it on tape. And then we got all these views. And this was in the old days of YouTube, right? It was like 2007, 13 years ago. Got all these views. And I was like, damn. So there's like a lot of people out there who actually agree with like some of this stuff. So we just started making more and more. And then the rest is history, right? The truth of the matter is that there is a certain type of fan like you guys, okay, who know what's up. And they don't want to talk to you guys. Like, just like, if you just had a conversation with some of these people, the movies you would make would shoot up in quality like by 1,000%. If you just had a basic conversation about because I'm looking at that panel and I'm like, none of these people are pressing this guy. None of these people are like actually asking the kinds of things that you need to ask. None of these people are saying the kind of things that you need to say. Like if I'm making movies, right, and I'm a guy, I want to talk to guys like you. I want to get pressed. Press me.
So is it not the filmmaker's fault? Like, for example, nowadays they go to Comic-Con and they think that's where they're going to meet fans. They go, they show the material, they meet all these people that are not fans, but they're at the event. They get their feedback, and then they go, oh, great, we showed them because that's the idea, right? A studio shows a clip at Comic-Con to get feedback, to test the waters before they start progressing with the rest of the film. So it's kind of like a focus group, right? But the people they're seeing at those events, maybe 30 years ago were actual fans.
Exactly.
Or, you know, it's who you would have wanted it to be. But now it's everybody that's not fans. So they're making these movies and getting feedback from the wrong people. I don't want to say the wrong people because that's who's paying the money and that's who's giving them the money to make the movies that they want to make the money from. But is it not the filmmaker's fault that maybe 30 years ago when Richard Donner was making a film and they wanted feedback, maybe they would actually talk to somebody that actually was in a comic book store? Or like there was no mass event?
Back then, they didn't even do that. They didn't do that because
they were already filmmakers. Like they were already filmmakers back then.
They were already filmmakers. You see, the thing is that back then the movie industry was so respectable that they didn't even, you know, they weren't thinking about pandering to anybody. They were like, no, we are filmmakers. We're going to give you a good movie that you will understand and appreciate is a good film. That's what I mean by pre-Superman 1. They taught us what a good Superman movie was. We didn't tell them this is how you do it. They taught us. That is the difference. And that's the reason why I said that, listen, Chris Nolan has to be given respect for this. Dark Knight, pre-Dark Knight, nobody knew that a Batman movie could be that thing. Nobody knew it could be that thing. I don't consider that a Batman movie personally, but he gave you a Batman kind of thing that I didn't think. Batman in Dark Knight is, like Have Hope said, is a SWAT soldier. It's not, that's a special weapons and tactics operative. Do you know when you know that this thing is like, this guy has gone in another? Batman in Dark Knight Rises is fighting in the middle of a crowd in broad daylight.
Yeah.
That is that scene in itself, that any Batman fan just accepts that, you do not know what, you have no idea what Batman is. Batman.
He's ever fought in the daytime in a movie?
I've never seen that before. That's the first time I've ever seen. No, obviously the stupid Adam West movie. He's okay. The Adam West movie. He's never in the dark.
Why did he go so off course in the third one? Being that he is a capable filmmaker, and is Zack Snyder going to be the same thing? That his latest project is going to be as off course as Dark Knight Rises.
Chris Nolan isn't a Batman person. That's why. So he's just viewing it as source material, and he started deviating, and which is why you saw it's consistently started deviating from Batman Begins. Batman Begins is a very Batman movie. It's a very Batman movie. It's not the Batman movie, but it's very, there's so many little things in that film that I'm like, okay, this is somebody who read the comics, even if it was for research, and put, like when he falls down that stairwell, and then when he's running through Arkham and you have all those bats around him, that's classic like Batman imagery, you know? Like it's just, he just didn't do enough of that stuff. He didn't make enough of that, those sort of nods. I feel like the more the movies went, by the time you got to Batman, Dark Knight Rises, I think that is his vision of what Batman is. Like that is his, when he got there, he could really just do his own thing, right? Snyder is not that sort of person. Like, honestly, like when I saw what he did in Justice League and all of that, I'm like, Snyder, listen, we could have a conversation like this with him. That's why I'm annoyed that he doesn't get to have these sorts of attack, like proper fan criticism. Because
we could have done that stream and we don't like his movies that much.
Say what?
We could have done that stream today and we're not even huge fans of his movies necessarily.
That's what I'm trying to say. Like you need to put that stream that he was having that conversation should be with people like this. And nobody's going to diss you. We're not going to insult you. We're going to praise you for all the great stuff. And we're going to say, listen, man, which is why I say it's important to have these sort of conversations. If Snyder was having these conversations with us before he started making these changes or before he made Man of Steel, we say what?
He would course correct, make some
course corrected. You course correct him. And he's a very nice guy. That's the sort of guy that would take heed. Like if you talk to him with respect and you say, listen, man, you know, you're good at this sort of thing, but make sure you do this and make sure you do this and make sure you do this. That guy is the sort of guy that would listen to that and would actually try and make those changes, because Snyder, he's not an arrogant person. Like when you look at him in interviews, this is not the typical arrogant director who doesn't want to listen to anybody or whatever. It's just that he has a particular skill set, right? So I feel like
he seems like the type of guy that's trying to be an auteur and trying to be more than he is, but you could set that straight in one conversation with him.
In one conversation, you just be like, listen, dude, there is something.
That's not you.
It's not you. And there is something you do very well. Can you just lean into that, please? And get somebody in who's going to take care of particular things, and let's constantly have feedback meetings with fans who are going to check the cuts and check the things and make sure if he had that, because his execution of the visuals is flawless. It's just flawless. Like you see him and like visually, I'm like, oh my God, this stuff just looks fantastic. So it's like if you had, I've always said this about Nolan movies, like I've never liked any of his action sequences. They don't have any intensity. They don't have any energy. Like he's not an action director.
He cannot do fight scenes.
Say what?
He cannot do fight scenes. He needs somebody like to do
he can't. It's not his thing. But the thing about Nolan is that, my goodness, man, that guy's structure and control of just plotting is incredible. Is the real question with a Nolan movie is that who wrote the script and is the script on point? But when it comes to just executing technical things or just like this is the plot and we're putting these sequences into this stuff, it's very, whatever you think of Inception, and I thought it was over bloated and that was too long, but the ability to just put that together takes a lot. There aren't a lot of people who could just put it together and make anything even semi-cohesive that you'd be able to watch and say, I sort of know what is going on. That takes a lot. And there are only the directors who are not with us anymore, like Stanley Kubrick and so on, who could do that sort of thing. Who could put a very complicated concept on screen like Clockwork Orange, and you watch it and you'd be like, wow, I actually really understood what was going on. That was great. That was a great movie. There are not a lot of directors who could make Clockwork Orange and you'd watch it and be like, have any idea what the hell is going on. Because that movie is very weird. That's a very strange film, you know? But you watch it and you say, you get to the end of Clockwork Orange and you're like, wow. And I consider that to be one of the greatest films of all time, personally. Not my favorite film, but greatest technically. All right, guys, let's end this.
Okay.
My final take is it's going to be better than what we got because Teletubbies, the movie, is better than what we got before. So, you know, that's going to be easy. But I don't know how you can make a good film, because it's like, we don't have the backstories.
The movie shouldn't exist in the first. It never should have. The movie should have never happened in the first place. This should have Man of Steel 2 or the Batman. Justice League should be coming out in like 2 years.
Not even, listen, it should be 5 years, because you need so much to justify a Justice League movie.
Well, let me ask this question. Is it a mistake to begin with? Because is every film that they make that's a comic book film another exposure point for audiences to pull further away from it or get more interested in it? So in a sense, is it borrowed time with mass audiences? So the more of these you make, is every one important in how long people stay bought in? And is him doing another one another opportunity for mass audiences to drop their interest in comic book films altogether? Because it's not just that his is coming out, it's whatever other movies are coming out that are in the comic book genre.
That's a very complicated question, man, because to be honest, I think comic book movies are, I think comic book movies are on their way out. Say what?
We've got, 5 more years of Marvel movies already laid out?
Yeah, but look at that lineup, man. Look at the lineup. It's like,
it sucks.
Yeah, it's like, come on, man. So in all honesty, it's on its way out. I think Endgame was Endgame. Like, that was the end game. Like, after that, I'm like, there is nothing there's nothing that I'm really trying to see. There is nothing that I'm really trying to watch. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's a weird one for me, because I'm such a comic guy, but the mere fact that I have no excitement for these things anymore. And listen, I don't know how extreme you guys were, but I was the sort of person, I'm not even the sort of person, I lined up at midnight for screenings. Like at 1 o'clock, I'd go to the cinema at like 5 p.m. I'd be there till midnight just to get my first place in the line. I lined up for 4 months in advance for Phantom Menace, where I had to go to the mall and have my place in the line saved for me. And I used to go there. That was me, the guys that you see on the news with tents. I was one of those people. Like, who just go? I remember when Phantom Menace was coming out, I used to go to FAO Schwartz in the mall and just sit in the toy section of Star Wars toy section and play with lightsabers with one of the guys who worked there. I literally used to do that because they had like demo, the ones that were out of the packaging that they would use to just show people. I used to just go there and play with the toys as a 19-year-old. I wasn't 6 years old. I was 18. And I was playing with toys in FAO Schwartz in the mall every day.
But see, the closest thing to that excitement, honestly, though, has been Joker. And that might be the beginning of the end of comic book films and a switch back to films. Like in general, just films in general. And with all the pushbacks, are they going to be spending $300 million on these comic book films going forward? That's a lot of money. There's nobody in the seats.
That's well. It's been
even make money.
Coronavirus has ended things because it was already on its way out, and now to make movies of that scale now, people are not going to be like. It's just not going to happen. There isn't excitement anymore because everything is such a commodity, and you've saturated the marketplace with these things so much that what was that thing? WandaVision. What the hell is that? I don't even know what is that?
But they had the conversation. They had the conversation with Wonder Woman because they were saying financially, if they released it in theaters, they could recoup and make what they need to make. But if they made it a digital release, they would have to price it differently. And to make what they would make, say, that they would make in a theater, which is already inflated, they would not make digitally. Like, it would not even be close without people in the seat.
Match.
Say that again?
You have to price it like a UFC match.
Yeah, like a paper.
Yeah, man, I think that it's going to have to be like $38 or something a tickets, $38 or $49.99 or some crazy price like that. You know,
it's like a UFC paper back in the day.
You know what? Because that is actually not a terrible idea, because those pay-per-view things those boxing matches make like 80 million, 100 million on pay-per-view, you know, because one person will pay and then everybody goes to one person's house and watches it. So that's why they cost $50. So $49.99 for a typical heavyweight bout is like $50, right? Which is a ridiculous amount of money for a pay-per-view. But people do that because they're like, I'm paying, and then everybody chips in and comes to my house to watch the fights, right? I feel like that's where movies are going to go. Like, you're going to start seeing a situation like that whereby the tickets for the movie is going to be like 50, you know? And then people will buy it and the whole family watches, and it's still cheaper than going to the theater and buying individual tickets for everybody. You see what I'm saying? So in the end, it might actually even out that they will make not as much as they used to make, but a lot of money.
If they make less money, because you're not going to get $800 or $1 billion wide from Black Widow 2.
No. That's another thing. Why is there a Black Widow movie?
I think they announced it before they killed her. I think they put the movie in pre-production while the Russos were
writing. A movie, you've killed somebody already, and you make a movie.
Yeah, it should have been made the movie should have been made 3 years ago.
The movie was made ages ago.
Before you.
And also, listen, like Half Hope said, and like Phantom of Hope said, what are they doing in the Avengers in the first place? These are human beings. Human. There was a moment, right, and we were laughing about this when we were watching it. We were like, in the middle of the fight during Infinity War, Black Widow and Hawkeye are in the middle of a fight with aliens and superheroes. I'm like, one of these guys could just flick you with their finger and your head would explode. You have no business on that battlefield. Absolutely no. Can you imagine like a normal soldier in the middle of that kind of battle? That is where I say that they've just sort of lost their way. It's like, listen, man, you've got to be realistic. Like, yes, maybe in the comics they were involved, but like, I don't understand how. And you have to consistently keep twisting around the scenes and the fight scenes to make it work. To make it work that they would be beating anybody up. Because in reality, those characters haven't got a chance against most of the other people that they're fighting. You don't stand a chance against them. You know, Captain America.
I'm sure in a Captain Marvel or Guardian story fighting the Kree, because that's not his world. He wouldn't be fighting there.
Say what?
You wouldn't see the Punisher in one of these Guardians or Captain Marvel movies fighting the Kree or the Centauri.
Because it makes no sense. It's like that. It's just like you can't, because I can't even suspend my disbelief enough to accept that.
You know what brought that about though? So you remember in the past before we had slow motion, right? Like when the human brain sees motion that doesn't make physical sense physics-wise, you notice it. That's why they used to use like prosthetics, and it wasn't all CGI, but it was prosthetical effects and that type of stuff because you could tell it's real. There was a scene where Black Widow, I think at one of the films, is running away from the Hulk. And she's running and he's like smashing a bunch of things behind her, trying to catch her.
Oh, yeah, I remember that, yeah.
The only reason your brain can register that is because they shot it in slow motion. So it adjusts your disbelief. But if it wasn't shot in slow motion, you wouldn't believe it because he's the Hulk and she's a human being that's running away in front of him. But because it's shot in slow motion, I think that suspends your disbelief of time and physics and reality. So you sort of, you like buy it like, oh, she's running away, but it's really slow. So maybe she just gets away. And like, you kind of
exactly. I mean, you know what? That was maybe you, because I did not believe what I was watching. I was watching it. I was like, this is, I'm just being honest. Like when I saw every scene with them in both of those, in all of those movies, like from Avengers 1, Infinity War, Endgame, every time I saw them, I was like, do you know that at a point, Black Widow is bloody in a situation with oh my God, what's his name now? I'm blanking. This guy, Snap. Thanos.
Thanos, yeah.
This guy is a galactic god. What business? What are you even doing there? Like, how are you? You're just a person.
They should have used them. They should have used them like a Rambo or a John McClane, like have them fight the assassins or the regular people.
Thank you. See, what it should have been is that you have specific things you do. You do not get involved with this superhero stuff. There are specific espionage missions that they send them on, specific spy missions that they send them on. That is where they are relegated to, because you guys have no business in the superhero stuff. The only human being that can do this is Iron Man, because he's in an iron suit. Black Panther is a superhero. You know what I'm saying? So that I'm like, I can accept some of these things. Even when you think of Thor, right? And Thor is the strangest character in all of this, because I'm so confused by his power, because I'm like, how strong is he in this cinematic universe? Because you know what I'm saying? It's like, it's so all over the place. It's like 1 minute, this guy is capable of fighting literally anybody. The next minute, he's getting destroyed by the Incredible Hulk, which I don't understand, because I'm like, listen, yes, we know it's the Hulk, but this guy is literally a god. Like, come on, man. I mean, look, yes, we can talk about comics where they did that and whatever, but I'm like, look, come on. He's just the Hulk. There's so many weird things that have happened in the comics that I feel like you should never translate to movies, because they did it in the comics. You know, for example, in an individual comic run, they just want to sell issues. So they'll do some crazy stuff for like a run that they should never really have done, but they just did it. When you're making the movie, you shouldn't be referencing those crazy things that happen in like episode 458 in 1987 or something. Because you're just like, what? There are some people that Superman cannot fight anybody. Superman fighting Wonder Woman is ridiculous. Like, it's ridiculous. I don't care what happened in the comics. Superman is too strong. He's too strong. Like, there's nobody that can fight this guy. So when I'm saying the thing,
you also can't do that, because when you start doing that, you take away some of the strength of the characters. Like you have to understand who goes where and where they lie, because once you start playing with it, you might not get back.
You might not get back.
You make a character look weak that's not supposed to look weak, and then you can't come back.
You can't come back. I mean, I have to say, Patty Jenkins, I give her props, because that was actually a good movie. That first Wonder Woman movie was actually a good movie. You know, I mean, when I say good in relative terms to what we're dealing with, you know what I mean? Like, I was happy when I saw it, because, you know, before you had people, you were worried that they were going to go in that Ghostbusters 2016 direction, or all of these sort of things where they're just going to denigrate the male characters and it was very well. And you know what the beauty of that movie was? It's like, they gave her like a real love story. They gave her like normal female vulnerabilities.
Oh, they flipped it. What's that love interest guy's name? The guy, Chris Pine. His character was the first male in distress.
Yeah.
Like ever. He was the first male in distress, but they did it in the way that I guess if you were gonna do it, it works.
It worked because they did it in a way that his distress is still masculine. His distress is like he's a human being. So he can't fight superheroes. That's the distress. It's like he's as brave as you want a guy to be. He's as capable as you want a guy to be, but within human physicality realms, which is why it works, because he was never disrespected by Wonder Woman. Like, she never disrespected him and just say, oh, don't hold my hand, get off, you know, all of that sort of nonsense. It's like she wanted him to be a man in her relationship. You see what I'm saying? So it was very easy for male guys to watch it and be like, yo, she's stronger than him. She could kill him. It's Wonder Woman. It's like, so she has to protect him. She has to save him. It made so much sense. And I liked how she handled it. Even the island with all the female warriors and everything, very well handled. She just did everything. And you could tell that this is a director who she's not trying to make propaganda. And I think that was important. It's like, you're watching it and it's like her primary thing is like, I'm trying to make a Wonder Woman movie that is a good film and will depict a female hero in a good light. And I appreciate it.
And she also puts a bit of herself into it. Like, the next one's supposed to be like the 80s because she was into the 80s. So she puts a bit of herself into the project.
Yeah, no, I mean, it was very good. So, I mean, I think that all the films that are coming out, when I even saw the trailer for Wonder Woman 1984, I'll watch that because I sort of liked what she did in the first. So you see, and I think that this is the thing about fans that you have to be realistic about is that any guy who says Wonder Woman 1 was crap, you are a misogynist.
It's the closest thing to Superman that we've gotten. It's the closest thing to a Superman film.
Yeah, because I'm just like, you know, when they say guys are being misogynist for not wanting female heroes, and I'm like, no, man, like, I just want like a good film. Like, I don't care about female heroes. Just give me a good movie. Woman is
yeah, y'all seen all the Alien movies, right?
The Alien movies are amazing.
Who wants to see a male-led Alien movie? No, I want Ripley. I want Ripley or somebody else as a main character.
Exactly. It doesn't work with a guy.
Prometheus.
It doesn't work with a guy. And listen, I would actually argue that Wonder Woman has been one of the better superhero movies in recent years. Like, it's actually one of the better ones. Not even that it's just good. It's like when you think of all the movies in Marvel,
it's better than
Captain Marvel.
Batman vs Superman.
Way better. If you're talking about DC, it's better than all of the DC movies except Joker. Of the recent ones, it's better than all of that. It's better than Man of Steel. Better than. Ironically, Snyder made all of them. So
it's better than Shazam.
Shazam was one of the silliest films I've ever seen.
It was fun.
It was a fun film, though.
I would say that it was fun. Yeah, it was. I would say that. Yes, it was. So I mean, I enjoyed. It was enjoyable to watch it, but it was just such a. I don't know, man. Like
Actually, the Rock is playing Black Adam. So there's that.
That'll be interesting.
Yeah,
that'll be interesting. I mean, that's a good casting choice. You know.
Yeah.
That's a good casting choice. I would listen. I did like Shazam comics. I did. So there was something in that for me watching it because I was like, wow, man, it's cool to actually see Shazam in like a film. Because the thing I always liked about it was that it was a kid who became a superhero. So I used to always put myself in that. I was like, man, imagine if I could just say Shazam. Did you ever watch Super Ted? You ever watch Super Ted? There's this cartoon called Super Ted where where he has a secret magic word that he says when he rips off his fur to become Super Ted. And me and my brother used to always put the volume up to maximum and try and hear, because we believe that he was actually really saying something. And we're like, it's fake. We put the volume up to max. We can't hear anything. Because we really believed that if we hear what this guy's saying and we say it, we could be children's minds, man.
You could have the powers.
Children's minds are crazy. I really believed. Honestly, like I thought, if I could find out what Super Ted is saying, I will have superpowers.
Well, what are your thoughts on Spielberg's Hook? Because when you think about like him and Peter Pan and Robin Williams flying and then him doing a Superman, Hook is kind of like, is it a plus in his corner or is it a negative in his corner? In terms of a guy flying through the air.
I didn't like it, to be honest. So I don't want to say anything because Spielberg is my guy, man. Like that guy is just my guy. So I don't even criticize it in public. In private, of course, I don't do it in public. I actually don't. I will never be on record on a screen criticizing Steven Spielberg.
But to be fair, he did get Ready Player One, which you would never think like he could handle, and he handled it well, and that was like video game culture. And
why would you never think he could handle that?
Because you figure he's older, and maybe at a certain point he's going to lose his touch with the generation. But he doesn't lose his touch because I think he's one of the guys that. There's a reason he's worth $500 billion or like he's like a billionaire. He's the poster boy of a blockbuster director. So
he is still 12 years old. Steven Spielberg has not grown up. Like he's a man, obviously, and he has an adult, but the essence of him is still 12. Like he's the same as he's the same as like George Lucas. George Lucas pretends to be a grown-up, right? George Lucas is still 12 years old. His tantrums that he's had when the fans were attacking him Then he sold Star Wars. I'm like, George, why did you sell it? Why do you do that for? Because he was so upset by how fans were behaving. That's what a little kid would do.
Yeah, like the kid gives you a toy, you play with it, then he takes it back.
He just
like
takes
it's
it
that
back.
type of thing. But you know, the other funny thing is that Michael Jackson had Neverland, right?
Yeah.
George Lucas had Skywalker Ranch, I think it was. And Spielberg, the studios, because he was so successful, didn't they give him like a whole building or something like that?
Yeah, they gave him a whole thing. Yeah, but I think, but I think Skywalker Ranch, Neverland Ranch, and all these sorts of people. Listen, it's like Spielberg will always be able to do it because he's still got it's still there. Like he never really grew up. So when you watch Ready Player One, it's like it's still got all those elements of Spielberg in it.
But it still surprised me because I was like, I would have thought he would have been out of touch because this is video game culture, maybe not his time and not his type of thing. But he got it.
No. You have to understand. Spielberg's prime coincides with the rise of video games. You have to remember that. Video games started in the early 80s with the arcades. That is when Spielberg started hitting. So he grew as video games became big. By the 90s, when he was making Jurassic Park, video games were now the main thing. So Spielberg, of all people, his career is in line with the video game era. It's in line with it. So he should get it. And if you watch Ready Player One, he really went back to the beginning of video games all the way down to the present day, which kind of makes sense because that is sort of retrospective of his own career. Like he started with when video games began in the early 80s is when his blockbusters were really hitting, is when arcades were hitting, when the Amiga was hitting. He was doing movies in the mid 80s, Indiana Jones and all that. By the early 90s with Nintendo Entertainment System and all those things. And all his films always had tie-in video games as well. One of the first games was like the E.T. game. You know what I'm saying? Like,
that's buried in the landfill, right?
Say what?
They buried all the unsold copies in the landfill.
Yeah, because it was so bad.
Yo, and think about like he even had the Reese's Pieces ad placements in those films. But think about like the performances he got out of child actors. Like Drew Barrymore was in that, I think. Like all of them were kids. Like who gets that kind of performances from kids? Like that's good. That's good. Like
you know I'm laughing. It's like so I think there's like an argument in the chats between some Talkback guys, some old beef from back in the day. I'm like, wait, guys. I'm not saying guys to insult here. Look, guys, we shouldn't be doing this, guys. Come on, man. What's going on? Anyway, look, you are 100% correct. And I actually really like having these talks because, and that's why I wanted to bring Talkback back to some degree, because I feel like if we can get this movement back and actually get people thinking about these things in the right way, you can actually cultivate, you can recultivate an audience. We'll start asking the right kinds of questions, you know? Because what I was saying about the way fandom has gone since we've been away, and when I say we've been away, it's like, Talkback just, you know, we did our own things and everything. What we started is now the ubiquitous thing on YouTube of all these YouTubers, like just, you know, making all these videos about fandom and everything. They're everywhere, hundreds of them, right? But the only thing that I feel so sad about is like how much division there is with it. It's like you go to these channels and it's just all negative. Like everything is just like what you hate, what's bad, what you hate, this is bad, attacking this and attacking. My philosophy with these things is like, we review the films, we talk about some specific issues, but we should be celebrating fandom. We should be talking about what we enjoy, like we're doing now and what we're doing with the classic films and everything. So that I finish this talk, look, it was supposed to be an hour, it's almost 2.5 hours. Because it's an enjoyable experience to talk to other fans who share your joy for this material, you know? And I feel like that is missing from the only channel that I think really does that is, I don't know if you watch Jodie's Corner. Yeah. Jodie's Corner is like the only one that does that sort of thing of like, let's just enjoy and like just put it on, everybody just be happy and have conversations about things, even if we're going to attack a couple of things. The overall ethos isn't just, And I really want to bring that back because I really feel the energy. Because if you listen to those guys' videos, through the anger, there is so much logic. There's so much logic. Like, you listen to some of this, I'm like, they are 100% correct. Everything that, not some of them are like off the deep end, but there's a lot of them that are very, very correct.
But the ranting makes it.
If you watch critical drinker stuff,
yeah.
If you watch world-class bullshitter stuff, they're correct. Like, it's like, just listen to it, like, yeah, you know, just, yes, you know, there's a lot of break down the points. I can argue with most of this. I'm like, yep, you're right. Even down to world-class bullshitters put out a video, and I was like, yo, that is so on point. I've been trying to say this for years. Nobody wants to listen to me. They said all this diversity thing that they were doing in Star Wars is just pandering, because the way that they treated Finn was trash.
Yeah.
And I've been saying that for years. Since 2015, I was saying this. I was like, they are treating this guy like absolute garbage. They don't even allow him to kiss Rey. He's not even allowed to do that. He's not allowed to have a relationship with her. That is old school. I'm like, why would you not even allow what is the most obvious relationship to just happen? That is the most obvious relationship in the new Star Wars trilogy, is Rey and Finn. That's the obvious one. Everything else, you'd have to sort of bend over backwards to sort of make them work. Those two are the people that should have been, that would have been the most interesting love story, would have been the most believable love story, would have been the most dynamic, the strongest. Instead, she fell in love with an abusive, genocidal maniac who kidnapped her. He kidnapped her. He actually kidnapped her. And you love that guy. He killed your best friend and tried to kill your other friends. And he never even said sorry. He never even said sorry, ever. Like, he never was like, yeah, I'm really sorry for killing Han Solo. I'm trying to kill Finn. I'm trying to kill everybody. Like, I'm really sorry, you know? He didn't even do that. And you fall in love with this guy based on what? That is why I said it's Finn, in the meantime, almost killed himself trying to save you, ran after you for like 3 movies. You know, the guy went into a coma for you. He did all of that, and he gets absolutely nothing. You know how they tried to give Finn like 3 different girlfriends in this thing? Yeah. Like, they just kept trying to give him new girlfriends, like anybody except Rey. We will give you anybody, like we just need to find someone else.
They wouldn't even give him Poe. He tried.
Listen, that would have actually been more interesting than what we got. Like,
I was like, you know, this seems like the real couple here, and then they just hug and they cut away.
Let me be honest with you. Had they done that, that would have been the most contrived. Like, you want to put a gay relationship into Star Wars just because. Like, you haven't laid the foundation for that. If you did want to do that, there was no need to set up Rey and Finn the way they set them up. Yeah, that didn't make a lot of sense. It was like, why did you do all of that if you wanted Poe and Finn to be the first gay relationship in Star Wars? And you might as well have just left them. You know that Finn saved Poe from the Death Star, or whatever the hell it was, Star Killer base. And you should have just followed that trajectory that way, if that's what you wanted to do. That isn't what they wanted to do. Like, they didn't know what they were doing. And there were just so many things that they did with that stuff that just didn't make sense. So when I saw that video, I was like, yeah, look, I don't know why more people are not speaking about this. And honestly, it shows how disingenuous a lot of the fans are, that they were rooting for Rey to be in a relationship with Kylo. How can you want that? How can you actually want that? Like, based on the film you're watching, how can you be rooting for that relationship and you're not rooting for Finn and Rey? Like, I just didn't understand how they can justify in their own minds as fans going in that direction. But anyway, look, we're going off at a tangent. All that is to say, as fans of stuff, it's really good to be able to have these sorts of conversations and to be able to air them, because I feel like we are going into the barren lands now. We really are. Like, we're about to enter into what you were talking about, where It is going to be the Joker thing where you're going to be getting more serious films. Superhero fandom is going to retreat and get less successful. All the fair weather fans are going to disappear. All the people who are filling the Comic-Con booths now and everything, who are just there for the party, are going to disappear. And we are going to be left behind to pick up the pieces. That's what's going to happen. It's going to be guys like us who are going to be left with the remnants of what has been done to all of these characters and everything, to sort of like pick up the pieces of them and deal with it and keep them going. Because I've always said this, and I'm going to leave you with this statement. This is my last statement. The most disrespectful thing you can do is to try and say white men don't matter to fandom. That is literally the most disrespectful thing you can do. And I'm black, and I know about racism, and I know about bigotry, and I know about the fact that the hero lore do not have a lot of black characters with any agency, if any. I know about the racism in it, the fact that you're always a sidekick. I know about all of that. However, the fact still remains. The reason why we have the stuff we have is because of white guys. They're the ones who, they created most of this stuff. And not only that, they've been the most dedicated fans. Yes, we can argue that it's because they're the ones with the money, they're the ones with the access. We can have that conversation, but I'm just talking about pure facts. You cannot spit in the face of the engine of the franchises that you're trying to promote. So when you go and make Ghostbusters, you can't denigrate white guys. Like seriously, you've got to first of all secure, it's like politics, right? Secure your base first, then start trying to bring people in, but secure your base. Make sure your base is secure. And I'm not talking about pandering to psychopaths, because there are people who were pissed off that the first face you saw in the Star Wars Force Awakens trailer was John Boyega. And I'm like, okay, that pisses you off that much? Okay, wow, okay. Like I was like, he's not even the main character, but it was like, those sorts of people you can never, there's nothing you can do with those guys.
It's like 12 guys.
Say what?
It's like 12 guys on Twitter who complained.
Yeah, you know what? I would actually say there's a lot more than 12. Probably, you know, let's not underestimate that group. But the majority of white guys who are fans of Star Wars is like, they just want a good Star Wars film where they're not being insulted. Like, that's it. It's like, can you imagine going to a movie where like, I'm the guy who's been a fan of this thing all my life and bought all the toys and I'm the reason why this thing exists. And then you go to the cinema where they're just telling you how much of a clown you are, how much of a misogynist you are, and like you're an idiot and you're in a fool, and you're paying to have that said to you. That's like the weirdest thing I've ever seen happen. And that is what has been happening. And I'm saying, I feel so weird even arguing about this because I'm not white, but I'm just like, you can't win that way. If you want to bring people like my image into something, and I'm black, and you want to bring the black image in, you need to secure the base first. You've got to do that. Then start bringing people in respectfully. Don't pander. It's the way it's got to be. Luke Skywalker is the main man. I'm sorry. Yes, he's white. I don't care. He is the main guy. Period. I do not want black Batman. I do not want black Superman. I'm sorry. I don't want it. I don't want to see that. I do not want to see it. Batman is white. That's all I've got to say on that. Like, he is. If you want to create a black character to be in a Batman movie, I'm all down for that, right? I am all down for that. But just the essence of who Batman is, Wayne Manor, billionaire, tycoon, these things are historically the kinds of people who would have grown up like that aren't black. They don't have that story. So you would have to now change the story to make it work. And why would you do that? Like, just create a different character. And I think
keeping it how it is and bringing a black character into it authentically and creating could make that character actually incredible and expand the world further. Like, yeah, here's a white Bruce Wayne that's a generationally wealthy white billionaire, and here's a black character that's on equal footing, and now it's interesting. Now it's interesting because now it's like, where's this gonna go? Like, now it could go somewhere.
It's the same thing.
It was supposed to be Robin back in, I think, was it Batman Returns? One of the Tim Burtons, they talked about having Marlon Wayans be the Robin character.
I remember that, you know. I remember that. But you know what? Tim Burton's just crazy. So he does his own thing. So it's like, that would have actually been just like, it's just Tim Burton being Tim Burton. It's like,
Harvey Dent was Billy D. Williams.
Well, Billy D. Williams, exactly. Like, and that's just Tim Burton being Tim Burton. Like, you don't even really think, and you know what? You can get away with that because those characters are not main characters.
But it would be more powerful if you created an original black character as a lead character, not like a supporting role or something like that, but like as a lead hero or villain or a lead character.
That is what I've been trying to say, that I believe that is the way that you've got to go if you want to bring diversity in with women, black people, gay characters, all of that. Don't take something that is already established and just co-opt it, because you're going to piss off a lot of people who are original fans, and the people that you're trying to bring in, because they were never original fans of the material, they won't stick with it. You see, the problem between Force Awakens and Last Jedi and Rise of Skywalker is the people who inflated the numbers, right? They're not real fans. Like, they came there for the spectacle, for the whatever, and they don't stick with it. So they'll just go on Twitter and rant if you don't do something. But what they don't understand is that, it's better to get the wrath of the people who are going to get pissed off at you because you've got another white male lead in Star Wars, right? As opposed to getting the wrath of the actual Star Wars fans. You don't have a choice. Luke Skywalker is Luke Skywalker. He's too important. You don't have a choice about that. Like, you can't just go in there and say, oh, because it's a white male and we want to destroy the patriarchy or something, we're going to attack Luke Skywalker. Luke Skywalker is beyond that. Like, he's beyond that whole thing of male, female, whatever. It's Luke Skywalker, for goodness sake. Huh. And I'm somebody who supports the idea of giving everybody a fair shake. Like, I believe, listen, George Lucas was already going to make it about twins and have a female Jedi anyway. Like, we were already prepared for that. No Star Wars fan who really understands what was going on was against a female Jedi. Like, why would you be against that? For what? Like, it didn't even occur to me to be annoyed about that. Like, I was already expecting it. I was like, okay, look, if George Lucas makes a sequel, it's gonna be a girl. That was what I was expecting. Like, I was like, it's gonna be the twins of Han Solo and Princess. Yeah, and like the girl is going to be the lead character. So I was already expecting that as a Star Wars person. So it was never going to be something I would push back on. I think the thing that just annoyed everybody who was annoyed by it was you just took it too far. Like, you just created a character that isn't even a real normal character. It's like superhuman, no character development. And in the process of making her so strong, you disrespected everybody else around her. It was just a very weird thing. All this to say is that I think that is all these things is why we're going into like a wilderness in fandom, where I think everything is going to calm down. We're not going to be getting those big tempos anymore. And we're going to get into a situation where we might, like Baval is saying, regress and like actually go back to actually making real films. Like, especially with what's happening now with coronavirus and the pandemic, movies are going to have to be smaller. They're going to have to cost a lot less money. Hopefully, we're going to.
You know why? One reason why Bad Boys for Life was so successful, they only made it for $90 million compared to, I think they spent $130 million on the second Bad Boys, which really didn't make that much money. So it was a shorter movie. They made it for less money, and I think it was better.
Bad Boys 3 was actually better.
Yeah.
Bad Boys 3 was arguably better than the first movie. The first movie was,
it might be the best one.
Yeah, I mean, I was so shocked at how good it was. I was very surprised. Like, I came out of the cinema, and it was one of the rare times I've come out of the cinema recently that I was like, I paid for something and I don't feel like I wasted my money. Like, I was like, I actually bought my tickets. I came, I was entertained, I laughed, had a good time. I came out and I'm like, wow, that was fun, man. I had a good time. All right, let's get the hell out of here.
Friends, as soon as we saw that, Bad Boys 3 proves how bad they screwed up with the Star Wars movies, because they came back 17 years later, made a proper sequel that was for the fans. They even, they brought back they fixed the music because they didn't have the Mark Mancina theme in Bad Boys 2. And, you just got to see where the characters were 17 years later.
Wait a minute. They didn't have what theme? What theme was that?
The theme music in Bad Boys 1. Yeah.
They didn't have it in part 2.
No.
Oh wow.
No.
Yeah,
generic
man.
bass soundtrack.
Honestly, I would just say this: that look, at the end of the day, we just have to keep trucking. Guys are getting older. When I started this, I was a young man. I still had hair. I don't have that anymore. Like, you know, like I just look at all the people who started on Talkback, and I'm like, I remember when we started Talkback, everybody was so young and like had so much energy. We're all old men now. Like, so really, it's really just about, I'm now realizing that, wow, it's really serious for me. Like, even me doing this, I'm doing this for all this time, I really care about this stuff, you know? Like, I can't pretend that I don't care. I try not to care. Honestly, I try. But sometimes you just see some stuff and you're like, oh my God. Like, and it's when I see things I like I said, Mandalorian, the excitement I got when I was watching that show, I'm like, this is all I'm asking for, man. I'm not really asking for that much. It's like, I'm watching this thing and I'm like, look at how much I'm enjoying this. I'm enjoying it so much. Can't you just give me, I'll pay you to just give me this. That's all I'm asking for. That's it. It's not a big deal. Bad Boys for Life, great film. It's not, they respected the fans. They brought all the people back that they should have brought back. The story was good. Directing was good. They didn't try and the beauty of it is, and this is why I say you've got to know your fans. Bad Boys for Life there was no respectability politics. There was no like, you know, agenda in the movie. We're just like, we know who the fans are. So we're making a sequel for the people who like these movies. We're not going to insert and force any current political thing into this. So the storyline had none of that. It was just like a story.
It was like another 90s cop movie.
It was another 90s. That was it. Like, there was just nothing in it that was like, okay, we know what year this was made. This was made in 2020, blah, blah, blah. This movie could have come out in 95. It could have come out in 1989. It could have come out now.
Yeah, sometimes you don't need to do something great or innovative. Sometimes you just need to do what you're doing really good.
I agree with what this guy said. It would not have been, if Bay did Bad Boys 3, it wouldn't have been as good.
It would have been almost 3 hours by Michael Bay. And they would have gone to war in Mexico with the whole country.
Yeah, it would have been a disastrous movie. You know, I would say this though, man. I did in Bad Boys 3, I have to be honest, I did miss Bay's style of movie, even though I don't like his style of movie. His style of movie is very good for Bad Boys. And I did miss some of his excess in the movie, in the way he makes it, because there's something about how he does things that goes really well with Bad Boys. It doesn't go well with other movies. It goes well with Bad Boys. But yes, you're right. It would have been overindulgent. And he would have gone to, listen, that thing would have been incredibly disrespectful to Mexico. You know what I mean? It would have been very disrespectful. Because when you watch his films, you're like, man, this guy is very disrespectful. Like, just, anyway, let's end there.
Yeah.
Bay out, Spielberg in. I'm out of here.